Okay, I'd like to call to order tonight's special meeting of the Board of Finance.
We're not called.
It's just us.
It's just Board of Finance.
Okay, for Wednesday, February 28th. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight's meeting is for the Board of Finance to deliberate over the proposed budget as presented last night by the Board of Selectmen. My suggestion would be that we will kind of copy the process used in prior years, where the chair will make the motion, the vice chair will second it, and that will open for discussion. Dion, that should hopefully make it easier for making minutes. Okay. So, and we'll just go sequentially down the department numbers. So starting with Department 100, Selectmen's Office, I propose that the Board of Finance accept the Board of Selectmen's suggested budget as presented, in total $260,196.
And I'll second that.
All right, discussion. Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Passes unanimously.
It was pretty quiet.
Account 110, Treasurer's Account. I'll make a motion to accept the Selectmen's presentation as is in the total amount of $6,000.
And I will second that.
Discussion. No discussion. Vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Passes unanimously. And I apologize, I want to make one adjustment to how I thought we would go through this. We will do Department 330 and 420 at the end, because we have some more work to do in those accounts. Okay, next, Department 120, Finance Department. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, total amount of $442,814.
Second.
Discussion.
Oh, did I skip one? I skipped one. Oops. All right, I got it.
Hearing no discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Account 130, Town Clerk. I'll make a motion that the Board of Finance accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, total amount of $233,510.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Department 140, Assessor. Recommendation to accept as presented by the Board of Selectmen. Total amount $224,942.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Department 150, Tax Collector. Make a motion that we accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is. Total amount of $205,018.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 160, Professional Services. I'll make a recommendation that we accept as presented by the, as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Total amount $216,080.
Second. 216.
216,080. Are we good? Do we have a second?
I did.
Discussion.
We're on 160, right, professional services?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my question. So Labor Council, General Counsel, and Legal Services, are all of them, one's Marty, are all of them Marty?
No.
Okay,
No. Labor Council is a separate attorney from Pullman and Comley. The General Counsel includes Marty, Land Use Council, and occasional specially assigned counsel, which I don't remember if there was any in the past year or not, but they're, you know, on occasion, the council is hired for specific reasons.
and is 352 Marty exclusively?
Hold on, let me flip.
Like General Counsel, I know,
Yeah,
is Marty.
What department is that number?
160.
Department 160, account 352, I believe.
Yes, 352.
So that's gonna include Marty and any other attorneys. Robertson Cole, Pullman and Conley, any of the bond closings we have, any other attorneys that are recommended by Marty to be used for town services.
Okay,
What was your question now?
I just wanted to know what that comprised, if it was Marty and others,
Which line?
352.
350? Yes, that's Marty and others.
Okay, and do you have the same attorneys that you use all the time, or do you have, do you choose them differently? I mean, if you have, do you have a fleet, a stable of attorneys?
We
or
have
do
an
you-
attorney for labor,
Yeah,
we have an attorney for bond counsel, and then if there's, Robertson Cole does land use. And if there's any other need for attorneys, like years ago, we had Comedy in Torrance out of Waterbury, we used them on a recommendation of Marty, so it depends on the circumstances of the case.
okay, but basically Marty recommends them.
Basically, Marty is what?
He recommends them.
He could, or we have on, like in the case of Pullman and Conley, those are our attorneys for bond counsel and also labor attorneys.
Right, but they're consistently your attorneys
Yes,
for those
yes.
things. So when something comes up that requires legal counsel, it's delegated to Marty to choose those attorneys.
Not necessarily.
Okay, that's what I just
Bond,
heard you
bond,
choose.
bond counsel, land use counsel, and labor counsel have been with the town for many years, before Marty was involved. On occasion, when there's a need for something special, like when there was a land use appeal, it wasn't Marty that recommended the attorney that the planning and zoning department hired. It was the planning and zoning department, because they know attorneys that specialized in that type of case.
Yeah,
So Marty might recommend them, or somebody else might.
Okay, I apologize. I'm not communicating properly, but all I'll leave it with is, when I asked about legal services, I thought I heard it's Marty and whoever Marty recommends. So I get what you're saying now,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
clarifying it, thank
Right.
you.
Any further discussion? Okay, vote, those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Passes unanimously. Department 170, probate office. Make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation in total for $5,201.
And I will second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? It passes unanimously. Department 180. Make a recommendation that we accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as amended. In Department 180, we would add $10,000 to account 105, part-time clerk, so that the new total is $10,000.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Okay, I do have a question, because I thought that it was taken out.
The Board of Selectmen did take it out.
And then what just
We
happened?
just added 10,000 back.
Who's we?
I just
Bob
made
did
a
and I
motion.
seconded it.
Okay, so you're making the motion to add that back?
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Building inspector.
You know, we're
The
going
building
through and we're
inspector,
moving.
105, row 105.
So rather than reduce by 20, reduce by 10.
No, I understand it, I just, you know, we're going through them, we can sort of just not discuss it. Here's-
So I'm sorry, let me just go through it one more time. So it's Department 180, Building Inspection, Account 105, Part-Time Clerk. We will add $10,000 to that amount. Or the motion is to add 10,000 to that amount. Seconded?
I had seconded.
Sorry, that's right, we're in
Can I
discussion.
just ask what we're basing?
Discussion.
Yeah, I just want to know what we're basing it on before I vote on
I
it.
personally had suggested, well, not suggested, I think that we should do that. Chris, I thought, made a very good case for all the building that's going on, and that they could use the help. Not that this means anything, but last week I ran into one of the employees who was just getting out of work, and it was 6:30 at night. And like you said with Laura, that you spoke with her, she's calling you at 7 o'clock at night. You know, we can expect a lot from our employees, but I mean, if we can throw them a little bit of help, I think that that's kind of the right thing to do.
And the suggestion was for a part-time clerk to do kind of receptionist-like work so that the folks who are in more substantive roles can focus on those roles.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's something that we would have to watch in years to come because there are plans to streamline the process quite a bit. I mean, once they are able to do things online, it becomes a much smoother process. And, you know, I agree. I mean, I work with the building department all the time, and I'm actually going to recuse myself from this vote because of that. But, you know, they do work quite a bit. But I just think it's something we would have to keep an eye on in the future, because as the process becomes streamlined, it might not be necessary.
Right. And it may be necessary for more, so.
It could.
This is 10,000 to start, and I think they deserve the help.
For this year, first of all, I don't dispute that people should be helped as needed, but I am not in favor of this, and I'll tell you why. Because, you know, I had suggested that perhaps this position could be filled by, there's so many programs going on in the schools about, you know, pathways and capstone projects, and this could cover so many things that a student could spend X amount of time. If you're hiring someone to be a receptionist, it could be a part of the educational process. I also, and I've heard this a couple of times, and this is where I think ideologically, that I really differ from, you know, Wendy in this sense. I believe that employees should absolutely be helped, but I also very strongly believe in efficiencies. And I do not doubt that they work hard. I don't doubt that. But I believe in my heart, and have for years, that there needs to be some streamlining and some efficiencies that are taken care of, rather than just to keep piecing it together like a patchwork quilt. It has to be really, I just don't think at this time, I think we have to look for other ways to, you know, get stuff done. And I'm not taking it away from the employees that they're working really hard. If the health department, the head of the health department can work so many more hours for so long, and that, what does that say? I mean, that tells me that somebody's not really looking at it, because it hasn't come up in this huge raise kind of thing, or this big addition of money. So I just really believe that we need to not keep adding money and look more at efficiencies. Thank you. That's it.
Further discussion?
I'm not sure if you could clarify, it hasn't come up in this big raise thing of money.
For the past few years. What I'm saying is she's obviously been doing this for many years, so it's said that she's been doing this for many years. And I can appreciate that, but also on the other hand, when raises have been presented, I recall very distinctly that the first selectman would say, well, they can't work over an X amount of time. But then that makes me say, well, if she's working 70 hours a week, is that overtime? Is that just donating time? I don't understand it. It sounds a little bit, loosey-goosey to me. And I think it has to be, before now, you would think it would come up if in fact that's happening, and I don't doubt it's happening. But it should be, you know, known and addressed.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
And one
I abstain.
recusal?
Yeah,
So, 1, 2,
Was that one abstention?
Yes.
Brian.
Yeah.
5-1,
I work with them all the time, it's not appropriate for me to.
5-1 with a recusal. Okay. Next, Department 190.
You have to go on the total.
You have to do.
Oh,
Oh,
we have to.
okay, yep, sorry. So we added
So it's
248, 945 is the new total. Is that right, Brian? You got it? 248, 945. All right. So,
That motion.
yeah, okay, so motion to approve Department 180, total amount 248, 945.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
Okay. I'm sorry, now, moving on to Department 190, data processing to be renamed IT. The recommendation from the Board of Finance is to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is for a total amount of $301,903.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Is that a contract position, Matt? Is that it is? Okay,
License contracts.
okay.
So far,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 200, Social Services, the recommendation, I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is in the total amount of $88,883.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Hearing none?
No,
Oops, sorry.
well, I'm just, it's just my brain isn't working as fast, maybe just other people's. I don't feel as strongly about this as part-time, but I believe, and this is just my impression of the new social services director, who I think, you know, is potentially a star. And I think she is working in a way that is actually going to require less part-time help, or none even, because she is really trying to maximize the efficiency, and I can tell by her presentation. I'm still not really, I'm still troubled about what happened last year with these two line items, so I am going to respectfully not support this.
Well, you could make a
Line 105.
So do you want to make an amended motion?
Oh, sorry. I make a motion to remove line 105, $6,000 from this particular account, 200.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Is there discussion?
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Chair, I would like to address the comment. The number that appears in this budget is based on the actual experience from the holiday season, and I would respectfully ask this board not to pass this amendment. And keep in mind also, the new social services director was employed for less than a full year on this budget go-around. So the number could actually be tight if there's a need for other part-time help. But this is actual experience, which of course, Board of Finance members, I wouldn't expect them to know that, but I am passing that along and asking that you keep that 6,000 intact. It is needed. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Last year, what was the actual spent on part-time was what? Is it 1737, or was there other money that?
Right.
I gotta pull it up. I'm not in that. last year was 1736.
Now, was any money used from the full-time salary that we wouldn't see? Because I guess we had a gap for a while, right? Where we went without a director and then we hired one. Was there money that we're not seeing that was used for the part-time, possibly?
It's possibly because we have an account for, what we call floaters, who
Yeah.
fill in, so there is, I would say it's almost not only possible, probable that there's some money in there, and we couldn't pull that out for you tonight.
Okay.
I just want to also say that my understanding is that the part-time social services director who was supposed to go to full-time never actually made it to full-time. Because the summer, I believe it was in June or July, and then she left shortly thereafter. So maybe you would have had to hire people in the absence of a social services director.
Possible. It's
Right,
possible
so-
that it's possible that there was help that came in from the other account, yeah. that's true.
Right, but you've not had a full-time social services director before. You
No,
hired
not- no,
Megan,
Yeah, not for several years, correct.
until you hired Megan.
Well, no, it wasn't.
We always had a full-time social services
Oh, I'm sorry, but then you went to
director.
part-time, and then,
Right.
now you went it back to, and then it went back to full-time. But still, no.
Can we, vote on the amendment?
Are we done? Any more discussion on the amended motion? All right, the amended motion is Department 200, account 105, reduce it by $6,000, effectively zeroing out the part-time. Those in favor?
I,
Those against?
Aye.
Amended motion fails 6-1. Any further discussion on the initial motion? The initial motion was for the total of $88,883. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against?
nay.
6-1. Yeah. Moving on to account 210, I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, $1,399,999.
I'll second it, although I did think of making a motion to increase it by $1 to make it a nice even amount.
I would vote for that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. On to Department 220, Fleet Maintenance. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is for the total amount of $333,050.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Can I just ask a question about the overtime? I know we kind of went over it, and I apologize for having class on some of these nights. Do we have an idea, Bob, of where we are right now in overtime for that fleet maintenance account? Because, 22,000 is a pretty substantial jump from 10. So I'm just curious to see where we are and how we came up with.
they're over.
Do you have an idea how much at this point?
The spend year-to-date right now is 13,244.
And we're about 8 months through the year?
And so 2/3.
So I would like to amend the line 107 and just bring it down to an even 20,000.
Okay, we have it.
Eliminate $2,000.
Just, yeah.
All right, so we have an amended motion. Department 220, account 107, reduce that by $2,000 to a total of $20,000. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I'd like to know what, it doesn't sound like a lot to talk about for a long time, but what's the basis for just reducing it by 2,000? Is
Well-
there a number of hours that you
Well,
think
it's just, I'm looking at,
productive or-
I'm looking at where we're at right now. So it looks like if everything holds the the same. They'll spend about 17,500, 18,000. It's giving a $2,000 cushion, and we'll have a much better idea at the end of, this year, whether or not, it was necessary. I'm just trying to, be as exact as possible. And just based on the numbers we have this year, it's, we're basically more than doubling that line, still at the 20,000.
So you're flatlining the spend.
At 20,000.
Through the end of
It's-
the
it's-
fiscal year.
Based on what we've
Based on
incurred
what
for
we've already spent,
two-thirds.
it looks like we're gonna spend about 17,500. I mean, we're coming out of winter, there's probably not gonna be as many, plowing's pretty tough on the trucks during the season. It looks like we're gonna spend about 17,000, we'd still have a $2,500 cushion in there if we go over, and I just think it's a reasonable number.
What happens if they need more?
They come ask
What
us.
happens with any department if they need
Just ask
more?
for it.
Yeah, or if there's money left over in a line, I mean, they normally have a money left over in a line, they just transfer that line. It's not unusual in these budgets where they may be short in one area, but they've budgeted too much in another area, so they just shift it, and they're still within budget. I mean, that's standard in municipal budgeting and, accounting. Bob's able to account for it at the end of the year.
Bob,
Mr.
was there
Chairman.
any reason for the 22 specific to that amount?
No, there's no specific reason. Took the 10, doubled and put a $2,000 cushion on it. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, are we gonna vote on this amendment and then still discuss, because I have questions and we have a motion on the table?
We have a motion on the table, we have a amended motion.
Just on this
the
line.
table.
But
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
could still
we can
discuss
still-
other
okay.
lines, yeah.
Oh, is your discussion
It's-
on other accounts?
Yeah, oh,
Got
no,
it.
it's on the same account, but it's just on
Cool.
other line items.
Oh, I'm
It's,
just kidding, I'm using
um,
different terminology.
Oh.
Department is,
The
Two
fleet
tw-
maintenance.
yeah, it's 220, but you
Yeah.
have a question on other
And
accounts
some,
within the
well, it's
department.
pursuant to what Ryan said, but it has more to it. This seems to me to be an unusual situation because.
And Cynthia, I'm sorry, I apologize for
Oh, I'm
interrupting.
sorry.
No, I just want to make sure I understand. So is your discussion around the overtime or another account?
Line 107.
It's about, well, if it's about that, all I want to make sure is if we vote on this motion, I can ask questions about 101 and 106.
Yes, yeah, yes,
Very good.
sorry, yeah.
Then let's sally forth.
Well, we will sally forth with no more discussion. So we have an amended motion. That amended motion is to accept
To reduce.
To reduce.
Department the amended motion, Department 220, line or account 107 at 20,000, a reduction of $2,000. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Nay. Unanimous? Other accounts, sorry,
Sorry,
Cynthia.
what was the vote on that?
Unanimous.
So it passed?
Yep.
2,000.
So account 107 in Department 220 is now for $20,000. So Cynthia, I'm sorry, so you
Okay.
can go.
So this seems a little bit unusual because if I'm correct, and Matt will tell me if I ever not, that somebody retired or something. Somebody disappeared because last year it was halved, the line 106. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, here's my question. Now, I also noticed are these contracted employees?
They're under bargaining agreement, yes.
Well, I say, who's bargaining for them? Because, the first line is up $3. I definitely don't get the relationship of these increases to other contracted, negotiated increases. Maybe you can explain that.
I'm afraid I don't understand the question.
I think what's happening is if they have an open contract, the money would be in contingency where
Correct.
if they're,
Right.
so they may be getting a raise,
Mhm.
but it's in the contingency account because either they haven't settled a contract yet. So what they'll do is, like, if they have a number in their mind, they might budget for 2% in contingency, and when the contract is settled, they're able to take the money out of the contingency and say, we're able to pay those salaries.
Okay, I'm only asking because it's the only one I see with like a $2 increase.
Okay.
I get what he's saying.
We're talking about two different people, because the fleet manager retired, that's the opening. Another worker was elevated to that position, applied for it and was granted it. but the worker coming in did not have the same level of seniority,
okay.
so there was a difference in salary.
totally
So you're
get
not,
that.
it's not an apples to apples.
I totally get that. And the second one, the mechanics, one of them retired or disappeared.
Yes.
Okay, I get that now. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Cynthia, any other accounts? You
No,
wanna go?
not
Okay.
this time.
So we will revise the motion. The motion now is to accept a Department 220 total budget for $331,050, a reduction of $2,000.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
331,050.
331,050. We're good, Dion?
Yep.
All right, moving on to the next account. Public, Department 230, Public Works. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is. Total amount of $322,478.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Can we talk about line 313? This is just a account that we've gone over historically by large amounts. Bob, do you have the dollars spent to date on contracted
Well, the
services?
one I have in front of me, Brad can bring it up, but the one I have in front of me from December 31st, 43,000 budget, and they have available 13,844
And that was halfway through the year?
halfway through the year.
So it's not as bad as it's been in
No.
past years. And you assume you probably have enough in some of the other areas if they go over to cover
You
it?
remember last year we moved part of it over to planning and zoning?
Yes. Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, that's my only question.
I have two questions about line 120. How many hours, if you know, does the intern work? And two, is it through a college program internship? Those are my two questions.
He didn't bring anybody in last year, that's why we took him out this year. That's a simple answer. That's all.
Okay, so that was, oh, that's right, I was there. That was deleted by the,
It's reduced.
by the first select, I mean, by the select, board of select. All right, thanks.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 240. The recommendation is to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as amended, adding $100,000 to account 404 to bring that total to $800,000.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
So I think we need to go with what the highway department presented us for their budget of what they need to do the road construction. I think we're on a really good kind of pace and schedule for maintaining our roads, and I think we need to go with what the highway department said, so I just want to, recommend that we go back to what we got from the highway department, which is the $800,000 in line 404.
I totally get, because I'm a very big supporter of having the money in the highway department in that account. But there was this, at the selectmen's meeting, there was sort of a discrepancy about what was actually repair and what was actually, because the reclamation, I don't believe that it's been determined whether that's repair or maintenance or new construction. Didn't you discuss that? I'm okay with that, the answer.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
I'm not sure it's relevant to the 100,000, but
Well, because, that's why I would support the reduction, because if you're gonna make a decision that reclamation doesn't fall under the category, wouldn't you get the money from another source?
Well, not really. It could go either way. The discussion really had to do with how you pay for it, whether it's eligible for bonding or if it should be in the operational account.
Exactly, that's.
One, yeah, but one way, but we didn't put anything in capital, and you can consider full depth reclamation and what they call mill and fill.
Oh, yeah, I was
They're-
here.
They're both,
For that.
Aren't they
full
essentially
depth
the same?
reclamation could go into bonding if you wanted it, mill and fill does not, it goes into operations. Or you can pay for everything out of operations. Our intention, prior to the Board of Selectmen voting on this, the intention of the department with my support was to move it to 800,000 so that it stays in the operational side. And over time, we wanted to move that, over the next couple of years, move that all the way up to 900,000.
Yes.
Just keep it there and adjust it for inflation.
Yes, I was part of that support for that. And so with that, I will support Claudia's
Okay.
idea.
So Matt, when the first selectman discussed it, why were you comfortable taking 100,000 out then?
Well, that was, quite frankly, I was voted on that. I didn't want to, but, I respect my colleagues on that. It's a group vote, so I presented it as such.
Understood, so what was the rationale for taking the 100,000?
My rationale goes as follows. We really don't know how much is left over. We won't know that until the end of the year. There's usually something there. Secondly, I'm looking, like you are looking at the bottom line. And when we had that $100,000 in there more, it brought up the total operating budget for the year like I think it was 2.19%. Taking the $100,000 out, it brought it down to 1.87. My feeling is what's palatable for the community here. Needless to say, we don't know, I don't want to step on anybody's toes on this, but we don't know what's the state of Connecticut going to do to us from the education side and also on the town side relative to reimbursements or grants. And you really have to, this is really in your area, you really have to stop and think, what is palatable to the voting public?
So I think that's important, but could I also ask, is there anyone who can speak to the practical implications of taking $100,000 out? Like, are roads not passable? Like, where are we on that?
In the past years, it started off like 300,000 and they kept increasing it over the years. So it was, prior years it was 500,000. Last year we raised it to 600,000. This year they wanted to jump it to 800,000, and I made the recommendation, and we made the recommendation to make it another 100,000, so this year it would be 700,000. So you're going up every year $100,000.
In prior years, it was bonded, that money. And so there was a decision made to put, and we started with 200,000, and it was only 2 years ago. And we put 200 in each year. I think we might put 100 last year. But to that point about palatable, to me, this seems like a very small flag to wave. It's as far as it's just maybe optically going to look a little more palatable, but in the grand scheme, it's not going to. And it makes me wonder why is there money left over, number one, when it could be, there should be more road repair. I don't know.
We don't know that until the end of the fiscal year, and usually there has been some residual money left over.
Well, that's a problem.
Can I
Brian?
Can I speak?
Yeah.
I agree with Paul, and I think it makes sense to see how much money is left over that we've bonded. I'm pretty sure, hopefully we'll have some left over. I mean, road paving's not an exact science. They can't come in at an exact dollar saying we're gonna, they gauge it by miles and tons of asphalt. And I think, as a board, we've done a good job of increasing this count, and we set a goal to go 100,000 each year we had discussed. And I think you would remember, I think we did 200,000 one year, right? It was we had a really good growth in the grand list, and we did it. So, I feel comfortable at the 700, see where the bond's out, and if we have to, we could probably make an adjustment later on in the year if it turns out that it's going to be a problem. I just want to agree with Mr. Zatowski, and it was my thoughts exactly. Let's just wait, and Mr. Straighten, let's just wait and see where we have, what we have left once we pay all our bills from last year.
I would tend to think that it's gonna be really tight, because last year with the $500,000 bond and the amount of money we put in there, the $600,000, it was only 1.1. We normally do a little bit more, but I don't, if we budgeted 1.3, we might have 250 or 300 left over, but at 1.1, I don't think we're gonna have anything substantial left over. If you have 50,000, maybe it's gonna be a lot.
And to be responsive to Dalene's question, I think what Bob told us was eliminated $100,000 would eliminate a road or two
Yes, it would.
of this year's repair.
Right.
So that's the, I think, the
Mr.
practical
Chair?
application. Yes.
I just want to clarify one thing. Paul is right. Some years there's a carryover. The last couple of years it's been tight, and I don't think we had a carryover last year. And I want to point out also, the year that we had it was all the way down to 200,000. We were able to do that because we had bonded a fairly large amount the previous year, and bad weather kept a lot of that work from being done. So there was a large carryover. So the 200,000 was it's kind of a false flag, if you will. So I just wanted to point that out. So just as you vote, just please keep those things in mind.
And if we do find that we have extra in there, does that mean Bob will do maybe another road that's on the list? Or parking lot or something, so it's not like the money just,
Well,
I mean, it'll be used for road construction regardless.
oh yeah, it'll be used for road construction regardless. If there is carryover, that would get him closer to doing the list of roads that he wants to do, but we're not gonna go over that if the budget is cut further, just so you know.
If there's one thing that people talk to me about, it's the roads. So I would be very hesitant to reduce it by 2 roads even, because of all the things that people are concerned about, this is one of the top 3.
Okay, do we have an amended motion?
Yes, you made it.
No, we have a motion to accept 240 as amended. Now is there an amendment to our amendment?
We didn't amend it, we just discussed it.
Right.
Oh, so I'm
But-
asking,
So now it's just a
is
vote.
there an amended
I'll make an
motion?
amendment
Yeah.
to add the $100,000 back.
That is the motion.
That is the current.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
no worries.
To 171?
Yes.
Okay.
No bullshit.
So if there's like an amended motion, it would have to, given the discussion, it would be to take it back down to the Board of Selectmen recommended level.
She would have to withdraw her motion for that to happen anyway, right?
I don't think so. I think we do an amended and go back.
She hasn't.
Oh, just, okay.
All right, so we do not have an amended motion, right? We're going to vote on the initial motion of accepting the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as amended, but it's our initial motion.
Your motion.
Our motion is to take the Board of Selectmen's recommendation
No,
amended,
no, because we already
listen,
discussed
please,
it.
please, amended by increasing it by $100,000. It is not an amended motion. It is just taking an amendment to what the Board of Selectmen recommended.
And I had seconded that.
So if there's no amendment to that initial motion, we're now voting on whether to accept Department 240 at $2,171,113. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
No.
So 6-1.
I'm against.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. You have to amend the line to the road
Yes.
count to
Yes,
include
good,
the
yes.
$100,000.
Thank you, sir, yes. So the amendment would be to Department 240, account 404, bring it up to 800,000.
So moved.
Second, sorry.
Doors? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
No.
Same 6-1. All right.
It's democracy.
That's right.
Moving on to Department 240, Transfer Station.
245?
245,
Yes, transfer
Transfer
station.
Station.
Yep.
The recommendation is to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as amended by taking out of account 105, $10,000, to bring that balance down to $10,000.
Second.
Discussion.
This will allow for funding within that account for additional part-time help, and also offset the 10,000 that was put into the building inspection account. So for a net for zero, while still giving both of those departments additional help.
Bless you.
My sheet has it as 20,000. Is that incorrect? It
No.
was really 10,000.
That it is 20,000.
So we're making the motion to remove 10,000.
Yes. For a restated balance of 10,000.
Okay.
Any, we got it seconded?
I
Yes.
seconded it.
And with
and then
discussion,
I-
any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous.
So the total for the account came to 185,
Yep.
125, correct?
Now we have to do the amendment for Department 245, account 105. That will be 10,000, and the total will now be 185, 125.
And that's, I'll second that.
Discussion. Those in,
I just want to know, in the salaries, are all those, are there, how many are there? Are there 3 full-time employees? 2? Okay, and but there are other part-time employees, no?
No.
It's just Mike and Todd up
Yeah.
there?
There are volunteers that work from time to time, like for community service hours, things like that, but they're rare. Sometimes people come to volunteer just to help because they like to chat with the people who come in and drop
Oh,
off.
it's a social event for me, I go all the time. But I'm just wondering, so this definitely couldn't be covered. I believe that somebody said that Mike has to go for recycling training or something, is that what?
He has to leave the station from time to time for educational purposes and also to haul things out. That's normally done when the station is not operating, when customers aren't coming in, but on occasion, he has to get somebody to cover him. And of course, you have to get people to cover for vacations and things like that too.
But what has happened for the past, 1, 2, 3, 4 years? What's happened? Overtime?
Yeah, there's a,
But how's the overtime in this budget?
yeah, the highway staff will fill in, for a few hours here and there for things like that.
And they'll take overtime?
Yeah,
So,
well, not always, sometimes.
but why wouldn't the overtime appear in the transfer station? Why wouldn't it be allocated to the transfer station?
Because it's a
It
highway.
would be, but we haven't had it.
But,
There's no
okay,
line item there.
what's
I
the?
think what she's asking is if a highway employee takes it, the overtime comes out of highway, correct? It wouldn't come.
Transfer station.
It's,
Well, where would it be marked? Where is it in the budget?
you know what, I think it's so
We haven't had
infrequent.
any overtime in the transfer station.
Well, we had.
That's
when-
my
when Mike
point.
was out, when Mike, I think here's what you said, when Mike or Todd are out sick or, take time off, somebody from highway will fill in. And it's
Well,
been
that may
so,
be regular time then.
yeah,
But-
it's regular time, and I don't think.
Okay, that
Yeah.
answers my question. So there is no overtime, that issue?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so what has changed, other than a recycling training once in a while, that makes this, it's been going on for 5 years. I know you say there's increased volume, fair enough, but to ask for $20,000 when you have not had an overtime problem, and, people are filling in and not charging overtime, I don't get it. So I would like to, can I make an amendment, or is it more discussion, Bob?
I thought we had already closed out this account.
Oh, we did?
Do we want to reopen it?
Did
It's
we?
already been voted on all.
Yep, it was a 7-0.
We can rewind the tape.
Yeah,
Not now, but tomorrow.
Honestly, I just don't remember that because I wouldn't have, I thought the motion was on the table for discussion. I didn't think we voted and approved this bottom line. But you're saying we did?
We did.
Okay.
I will do a better job of making it
No,
clear.
I don't know, I'm missing a lot of things over here. Maybe I'm, just in a, there's a wind gust or something, I don't know.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I might, I know the issue is closed, but I do want to satisfy the question as best I can. If you remember the presentation, when we changed the pricing scheme, the volume went up tremendously, so it's not
Yes.
just filling in
I
for
mentioned that,
vacations,
I said,
it's
I understand.
Yeah.
There's a little more volume.
a lot more volume.
Okay.
And we also wanted to increase the hours to better serve the public, because there's, used to be open on Friday, it's not open now. We want to be able to serve the public during peak times at a,
So are
better
you,
rate.
you mean to open another day?
No, it'll extend the hours on a day that they're only open a half day.
Okay, we can move on. I'm all right.
Moving on to Department 250, Planning and Zoning. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is for the total amount of $236,304.
I'll second that.
Is there a discussion?
Yeah, can I just, we had talked about contracted services and that we placed some of the new reviews on planning and zoning, and they're required to hire their own engineer, correct, Bob?
They're not required to, but they usually do.
Right. I'm just saying, I mean, if they're gonna use an engineer, it's no longer only Public Works responsibility, planning and zoning.
Yeah, it depends on the nature of the work to be performed. Sometimes a general PE can do it, sometimes you need somebody that's more specialized in land use.
Can I just ask my normal question and where we are to date for contracted services in planning and zoning?
Well, I know in December we were at 9284. Brad will look up where we are right now.
That's a pretty specific number, Bob.
9284.
He's good.
Like 13 cents.
Let's round that up.
Well, regardless of where we are now, they requested 15,000 and the selectmen removed 5,000. So if in December they were already at 10,000, just shy of 10,000, all I'm asking, does it really make sense to remove the 5,000 in contracted services? Or does it make sense to put that money back in there and have a more accurate account of where we're gonna be, is all I'm trying to say, because I know we had shift some of the responsibility to them.
Maybe we should also say, well, that's this year. Is there a reason why we're going over this year? That might be exceptional, whereas in the next year, we might not experience that. And I throw that as an open question.
There were some exceptional one-offs this year. If the board wants to improve that line and put cushion in it, that's no problem with ours. I'm with my colleagues that we're just trying to be as fiscally prudent as we possibly can, and not expecting some of those extraordinary engineering reviews in the upcoming year.
Right.
But
We could be wrong.
If they do implement the wetlands violation fines and if the people go through 2 engineering reviews and needed another one, they're going to pay for it. The town is not going to pay for it. If they implement those things, then it could stay the same.
Sure.
So the 10,000 could be reasonable.
Yeah, that's what we're betting on.
It
That's
could,
what
but
I
if,
wanna bet on.
but if it's not,
If it's not, then would they be able to come back to the Board of Finance to get additional funds?
We'll just be-
not for 5,000.
Well, that, to me, is an incentive to implement those policies.
It sounds like they might be doing it this year. If they're already at.
I guess my point is, if in December we're at 10,000, right, and that's 6 months, I don't think anything that extraordinary has occurred that we're not, I mean, we have a lot of development planned for next year. We have some more senior housing coming up. We have some commercial development on the horizon. Planning and zoning is gonna be very busy. In my humble opinion, they're gonna have a lot of work to do. And you know, I'm not emotional about anything. I just like facts. And the facts look to me as if they're at 10,000 in December, I don't think we could expect to be under 10,000 next year, and I think we're gonna be over that number. It's just my opinion. If you guys are comfortable with it, then I'm not gonna make a motion and I'll leave it alone.
This is all just our pet.
So do we have an actual number?
There's
10,000 in December. Halfway through the year, they spent
Are
10,000.
you gonna make an amendment?
Make an amendment.
I'll make an amendment to restore the funding to 15,000
Actual number for you.
for line 313, contracted services, planning and zoning.
Need a second?
I'll
second.
second.
Discussion.
I think we discussed it.
Yeah.
He has an actual number for you, though.
Oh, he does? What, oh, you have the actual number?
Through 8 months, 10,662.
So it dropped off quite a bit.
Well, it just, wasn't Bob's number just shy of 10,000?
Right, but that was in 6 months.
Yeah, so.
So
yeah,
in
it
2
hasn't
months.
grown much the last 2 months.
All right, I'll withdraw my motion. And I'll withdraw.
Or we
my
can
motion.
vote on it.
Well, we can vote on it, I mean, or I could just withdraw it.
What do you prefer?
I'll withdraw the motion. Now with that factual evidence, I think we might be okay.
Does
I mean,
anybody
they
else-
spent $400 over 2 months, so I feel a little bit better about the 10 grand.
Does anybody
Thank
else
you,
want to
Brad.
make a motion?
You love the data, right?
No. All right, so we're going back to the original motion.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Brad.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Next account is, excuse me, next department is 260, building maintenance. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is. Total amount $722,212.
I will second that.
No, fine.
Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 270, Tree Warden.
I love the tree warden.
I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is for the amount of the total amount of $85,400.
And I'll second that and call for an immediate vote.
Yeah, let's just breathe right past it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Hoorah! All right, 290. Department 290, Emergency Management, I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, total amount $28,176.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Department 300, Fire Marshal. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, a total amount $96,819.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 310, Bethel Fire Department. I will make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, total amount $170,250.
Second.
Could you,
Just-
are we discussing?
Yes, discussion.
Could someone remind me where, why that equipment and supplies went up so significantly? And I know you reduced it, but. just-
That was really a shifting between the accounts last year, the way they were presented, and this year. And one of the big items in there, I think, is it the
What's
tires
equipment?
on one of the trucks? That alone was $10,000.
Oh, okay, so they shifted it around to different line items,
Mhm.
right? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 320, Stony Hill Fire Department. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, a total amount of $128,750.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, we will vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. We're going to skip over the Registrar of Voters because we've got some more work to do in that account. We'll move on to Department 940.
Aye.
Excuse me,
Three.
340.
I was just looking to get through the list quickly. Department 340. Town Boards and Commissions. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is. Total amount $56,750.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. Voting? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 350, Health Department. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as is, total amount $318,101.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
This is hard for me, just for the reasons I stated, and,
I'm sorry, Cynthia, I can't hear you.
oh, I'm sorry. I just, it's concerning to me that it would be so long, that there would be, coverage for if part-time help was needed, that there would be coverage for such a long time by the department head. But again, part of this, and I know some of the people have to be licensed, some of the the contracted services and whatnot, but again, I cannot stress enough how much I think that, interns from colleges and high school students can benefit from, and I'm not saying they'll take over the whole thing, I'm just saying that partially be covered by that. And I will, I'm gonna stick to that. So I don't have an amendment, I'm just going on record as saying that it could be a meaningful experience for someone in a project that had to do with health in government or out in the world.
May I address that, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you may.
Just to clarify from the original presentations, the work that needs to be done, that we're trying to fill in, must be performed by licensed sanitarians and licensed food inspectors, and most preferably licensed with experience. It's not easy work. It's not, you can get a person to work in the office, but you really, that qualifies with that description, but not to go out in the field.
That's all I was suggesting.
That's
all I was suggesting.
Yeah, okay, I see, but that's not where we need the help. The help is needed in the field with those inspections. So
Exclusively.
that's what that's.
So there's, none of it is to relieve any pressure
No.
from day-to-day operations. Fair enough. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Voting, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 360, Police Department. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation as amended by adding into account 106, negotiated salaries, $60,000 for the purpose of adding one officer.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Weren't two officers included in the request?
Two.
Right, and
Two-
so you removed $60,000.
No, two were included in the request by the department, both were removed by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen's recommendation is of a base number without either of the 120 amount in for either of the two positions.
Okay.
So you don't want to phase it in, you just want to do it all at once?
I'm sorry, what was?
Well, we discussed last night about how to phase it in so it's a zero on this year's budget.
Actually, could you revisit
Yeah,
that
could you
discussion?
talk about that more,
Because
Vern?
it wasn't clear in terms of the timelines.
What-
It'd be good to revisit that.
Well, actually, and also what the benefit is to the budget and also the police department.
Well, the police departments obviously would love to have it starting in July,
I
Right, I mean, obviously they like to have it in July.
But didn't you mention-
Yes, my point was this, is that, there's very limited academy classes. Unless they're gonna go with a certified officer, which I'm sure hasn't been decided yet. There's gonna be a testing process, there's gonna be background checks, there's gonna be a long, arduous process to get through this. And then they're gonna hopefully get an academy seat. There's an academy starting in April, which obviously is in this budget season. Generally, there'll be another academy class, June, sometime in June or July, beginning of July, which would still be very tight with this. What I'm saying is
Excuse me, it'll be tight with this, trying to get an academy.
getting the person into
As
the
soon as
academy
July.
and through the hiring process. If they can't hire till July 1st, you can't make a conditional offer. If something happened to the funding or something like that, you could put yourself in a very bad position. Police work's not like a regular employer. When we make a conditional offer, we're basically making that condition, and we're requiring you to take a psychological exam, we're requiring you to take a polygraph, a lot of intrusive tests on the promise that if you pass these tests, this position will be available for you. So you can't just say, we're gonna give you a conditional offer and hope we can get you certified and hope we can fund it. It has to be a true position in order
Captain
to do it.
Pugner, is that how Bethel works? How, if we were
I'm
to
not,
fund the one officer,
yeah,
that would go into effect, or July 1st, 2018, assuming the budget passed. What happens then on July 1st? What do you do?
well, Captain Tourism is accurate, it usually takes a long time to hire stuff. What we happen just to have given a test. So
Okay.
we do have an
So
active
you could hire
list.
somebody right pretty quickly?
Yeah, and we do have an academy seat already confirmed for July.
Okay. So then there would be no point in holding off till January.
Well, the point is to reduce the overall impact on the budget for 2018, 2019. You know, my fear right now is with the additions we've already put in, we've already crossed the 2% threshold, and we're gonna continue to rise. If we held off hiring till January, it's a $30,000 increase to that year's budget, and it's phased in. So there's less a chance, and again, we're not even through all the budget. I'm just very concerned that if our number goes too high, and to be honest with you, I think crossing 2, and this is just my opinion, you know, we risk the budget getting voted down. I mean, people are hurting right now. There's a lot of, you know, taxes and a lot of uncertainty in the state. We could still fund the position, it's just we could phase it in with a little less impact to the budget. And that's just my opinion.
Can I ask a question? I don't know this answer. Do you always hire somebody like new? You don't ever get somebody who wants to transfer from another department that's already like been certified, been qualified? You know what I mean?
Am I allowed to speak to him?
Yes, please.
Usually what happens is we give a test, which we just did recently. We ask for certifieds at entry levels. We do get some applications in for, that are people are already certified.
Right.
We look over their applications. A lot of times, Captain Tursman will probably agree with me, the guys that are leaving another department for a reason that we probably don't want to hire them 9 out of 10 times. Luckily, sometimes you get lucky and you find a good one, which we did a couple years ago for Danbury. Usually we end up with entry level, which means they have to go through the academy, which is approximately 5 months. And then after that, there's another 2 to 3 months of field training on top of it. So from the time we actually swear them in, send them to the academy, it takes 8 to 9 months to get them on the road.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, Captain, you mind if I ask a question? So you have some candidates that have already taken the test?
Yeah, the police commission's already given them conditional offers based on
Okay.
future openings.
At what point in the upcoming fiscal year would their salary be fully burdened into the budget stream?
The day we swear them in, which is usually, we allow probably a week to a few days before the academy starts.
And so what would that date be?
Depending on the exacts there, for argument's sake, say the academy started on July 2nd, would probably have to be July 1st,
Okay.
June 28th, something like that.
Okay, all right, so really we have to assume that the individual would be there for the full fiscal year, right?
If you, that's what you're aiming for,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, let me state that I support Mr. Terzian's motion. And as I said in our presentation, the captain and the chief did an extremely well-reasoned presentation, and this was cut back for no other reason than, as Paul and Rich have said before, is to try to keep the number from going too high. But I think we just have to assume if we believe that this position is needed now, that we have to budget for it for the full year. I don't see any practical way to, you know, stretch it out and not have it hit till January. I wish there was, but that's okay. If you have the candidate, and it's a candidate you don't want to lose, you don't want to tell them, okay, well, you're gonna have to wait till January, we want to hire you, you might lose them. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Have they passed their backgrounds already, though?
No.
And how many do you have on the list?
We have 3 people that were given conditionals last November, December.
And are any of them on any other police lists right now?
Yes, they are.
And based on your professional opinion, if they're a qualified candidate, do you think they'll still be there in July?
Not sure.
Um,
I know the two of the ones where they're active, they have no seats for April. So there's a good chance they will be, but nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And we are also anticipating 2 retirements any day right now, so that is gonna backlog us even more.
Which would require possibly new testing, because we know how the background investigation goes on. We went through 3 candidates. Our average is to go through 3 candidates to fill 1 position. I'm assuming you're seeing the same thing?
Yeah, right now we gave a test, and we have about 15 active people that
Okay.
we consider hiring right now. The police commission interviewed 8 of those 15. They gave conditional officers to 5 out of those 8.
Yeah. Look, I support you guys 100%, and you know that. My fear is if this budget goes down, one of the first things that's gonna get cut is the police officer position that we're fighting for. So that was my recommendation on finding a way to, and maybe we could do it by reducing the overtime line a little bit. Maybe a little further reduction in the overtime line might be a way to reduce the impact and get them hired by July. If you think you could get them in July's academy, that'd be great.
So let's stay on the,
Police? Do you have a
yeah, the
motion?
106 negotiated salaries. Do we have an amended motion?
Did you make a motion?
We have a motion on the table to add 60,000 to account 106.
I'll second it.
It's already been
Oh, it's second?
seconded.
Oh, all right, well then, is there any more discussion, I guess we would ask, right?
Any more discussion or an amended motion?
Yeah, go ahead, no.
Well, I was gonna say, do we not discuss overtime reduction before we
Right,
vote on
that's
this?
confusing.
Well, we will have another motion on overtime.
Can I just ask a question for point of clarity? And this is where maybe I'm confused. I thought when there's a motion on the table, you have to stick with that motion. And the only way to change the motion is if you agree to withdraw your motion. I can't amend your motion without you
Right.
agreeing to it. So that's all I'm just trying to get, because,
No, you
or you
can't
can,
amend
I don't know. I thought you couldn't.
No, it would have to be voted down.
Yes.
We'd first have to vote on your motion. It would have to get voted down, and then we could bring a new motion.
All right, so then let's call for a vote on the 106, additional 60,000.
Would that be an amend, that would be an
That's
amendment?
that's his motion
That's
that
the-
he made.
That's the
That's the original
that's on the
motion.
table.
Okay.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
All right, so 6-1 in connection with account 106 in Department 360. The new balance becomes $2,704,782.
Say 704, should be
784.
724? Okay.
So we're still discussing this,
Well,
We're still on the police department account.
right, and that's where I want to be. So are we discussing other aspects of the police department now?
yes, I'd like to make another motion
Okay.
to account 107 overtime, to take that down by $15,000.
Second.
15?
Yes.
I second.
Right, which was what the chief presented as kind of the pro rata overtime reduction for officer
And
hiring.
if I could just comment further, we were looking at the overtime spent in 107, and the breakdown is 80,000 for dispatchers and 198 for police operations. So to be consistent with hiring an additional officer, we thought that perhaps we would save on some of that police operations overtime. And a 7.5% number was supplied to us, so that rounds to about $15,000. So that was the basis of that OT reduction.
Any further discussion? Then we will vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Nay, and nay with the qualification that I don't, what if my motion's made to further reduce something or to go, because you're making motions I thought, and Dion would know this, you vote on the full amount, and then it's all open for discussion. Is that not true?
Mm,
And then you make your amendments line by line.
That wouldn't make
No.
sense, because you've approved it. You couldn't re-amend what you've approved.
We'd approve it for discussion, like we always do.
Well, no, we open it for discussion, we wouldn't vote on it,
Right,
and that's what we're
opening
doing.
up.
But
Right,
that's what
then
we're
we're
doing.
voting on line items with amendments.
Well, yeah, because that has to happen to get the
Perhaps
final
offer
vote.
some clarity?
Sure.
On procedure?
Mr. First Selectman.
The clearest way to do this is for a member of the board to make a motion to approve the original bottom line number for the department. Once that motion is on the floor, then amendments can be made and voted on individually.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
I think that's what we
God,
can
that
do.
would
Yeah, that's what you
That would
want.
change my life, if we could do it that way.
So you can throw out any recommendation that you want for any line item.
No, I understand, but when we're in the middle of voting on something, you know what, I'm just gonna say what I think. So, and then you can put it, tell me what to do. Here's where I am with the police department and the whole budget. I want it to pass, that's my goal. My concern is because, you know, I know the people who elected me on this board, and I know the people who voted for me in November. It was almost 40% of the vote. Those people are really, really concerned about, you know, their living expenses and their taxes. That said, some of the same people are still, you know, smarting from the police department, not from the amount that was bonded for the police department. So it's very difficult for me to look at this and not want to reduce some of it significantly, because I think it's gonna have an impact on the budget passing, quite honestly. So I would like to make an amendment to reduce the overtime by another 15,000.
Another 1.5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so right now we have it at 223, and you're asking for, or suggesting you'll make via motion, a further revised number of 208. Is that right, Cynthia?
Yes.
Is there a second?
You're never gonna believe this, but I'll second your motion.
No way. Okay, media, call the media. A media moment.
Discussion?
My, whatever number we fund in that account, the police are going to spend the overtime that they need to keep the health, safety, welfare,
Mhm.
everything, the normal operations of the town and, you know, whatever they want to do, whatever they need. They always have the option of coming back to us if they need additional funds in that account. They also have the chance to find savings in other accounts to perhaps offset that. So if it makes it look as though there's a reduction to that account that helps the budget pass, it doesn't mean you don't get to protect us. You still have to do that. So I will support it.
Can I, tough answer for you probably, but would you say on any given year you probably have 2 or 3 months with officers on workers' comp or injury leave? Average,
We had a couple rough years recently with that.
right?
We've incurred a lot of overtime recently because of that and because of a lot of retirements in the last 3 years.
Right, but I guess my point, and this is my point, with retirements and workers' comp, the money's actually in the budget to cover the shortfall. You just have to pull it out of the salary line. Because on workers' comp is paying the officer's salary, or 75% and the town's paying whatever the town pays. And when someone retires, the salary line's still there. It's just not being used by that officer, so it can be used to offset the overtime. So, you know, would you agree with that, Bob, that we're probably safe? Because, you know, we always have people coming, going, getting injured, so there's always money in that salary line to cover it. So I agree with Cynthia, I'm fine with it.
I'm not sure that I'm in agreement, and here's my wacky math in terms of it. You know, of the 198 in the original ask, part of that was recoverable because it's billed to contractors. And it looks from the numbers that were supplied by Bob on the police, it's a little over $100,000.
I think you, and again, I don't want to speak for Captain Plummer, but like overtime jobs, they might talk they're getting their money back if a wire comes down and they bill CLMP for watching the road until CLMP can get there. My point is this, is if you're $15,000 shy in your overtime account, I could almost guarantee on any police department, you're gonna make it up on your salary line because you have officers retiring, the salary's still been budgeted.
Right.
You have officers out on workers' comp, which unfortunately is just the nature of our business. People get hurt, you know, it's unfortunate, but it happens. So the insurance company is paying their salary. So what you do is you take from that salary line and you move it into your overtime line to cover any shortage that you have. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, and that happens in businesses,
Yes.
whatever, but, you know, in terms of just looking at the ask, there's still an overtime requirement in the ask. And I think we all agree that that additional overtime was based on a presentation that Chief Finch made, that the volume, the activity requirements of the town is on the increase, and they need additional resources in order to deal with that resource. So by reducing the OT to a huge degree, really doesn't support that.
Well, it does because you make it up with the salary line is what I'm trying to say.
But they always make it up with the salary line, and the salary line is basically flat. So I know that you can move funds from not only salary line but other lines, but that's a given any year and not something that you can do special this year as opposed to what we've done in the past.
They've been averaging $255,000 a year for the past few years, correct, in between dispatch and patrol overtime. What wouldn't be shown in that is what's recoverable by CLMP, correct?
No, that wouldn't be.
What I'm saying is like if,
But that's on the revenues, what we're looking at.
right.
What's the recoverable or the billable? That's
Right.
what was given to us tonight.
So you're saying your overtime's only $355,000 if you were, can I see that sheet? I didn't.
I thought we got one, I misplaced mine.
Robert, that's a budgeted amount,
You have
that's
it
not
right
the
there.
actuals.
Oh.
But it's typically a little bit more than that.
Okay. But it's a guideline to use for point of discussion.
Right.
Thank you.
That goes on a revenue side.
Oh, that's when you, that's like money you get from contractors the town gets for, he's looking at police other,
Steve,
Revenue.
it's the revenue.
the revenue.
Revenue.
Vehicles.
Yeah, yeah.
They're looking at the revenue.
Right, so that's when they work an overtime job, they're billing per hour or however Bethel does it. We bill $25 an hour per vehicle. But that money goes back into the general fund. That doesn't go to the police department.
Well, all the revenue,
Understood.
yeah.
Which we could put back into overtime.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Captain Butler, let's just ask you, with an additional reduction of $30,000 in overtime, does that hinder the police department in keeping us all safe?
That's a question.
Can I give you a yes and no answer?
Yeah. Probably not.
It does to a certain extent where it gets towards the end of the year and we have some things where we'd like to do, but our overtime account might be really tight and we can't. Obviously, we have contractual obligations where if two people call out sick and we have to hire overtime, well, we have to do it. And Bob, well, call Bob and say we're going over, we have to figure this out. Some things we have to do. It does limit us into doing some additional things we might want to do. Does that make sense?
Like,
Yeah, what would some of those
for
things be?
example,
Additional staffing on a weekend, on a Friday or Saturday night, holding over a car on a weekend night when you know the shift has been busy on a Friday or Saturday night and you only have 3 guys working and you want to keep that 4th guy over just because his indication's been busy.
Busy night.
Yeah.
How much of this overtime though is based on grant where you get a 75% reimbursement of the $250? How much of it's reimbursable?
That's been, what's in there based on the reimbursable being part of that, as far as I'm.
Is that correct?
Well,
You
you
get like
remember
for-
when the chief came up with the scenario with the different percentages?
Yep.
And on 100 and, the December number, what was the December overtime number? 159.
Yep.
I think the pure overtime after the collections was down around $63,000 to $65,000. So that difference, about $100,000, was coming in from outside work, which goes to the revenue side, or grants for seatbelt checks or cell phone checks.
Now, when you take the grant money, like when we do a grant, I speak with the controller and make sure it goes back into our overtime account. Is that the same here?
Depends what kind of
Yes. Yeah.
So it gets, so far this, for 2018, in the first 8 months, we received about $35,000 worth of grant money, whether it's DUI or seatbelt checks.
Sure.
And that directly goes against DOT, because we consider it reimbursable for the OT hours.
So the $250,000 we spent last budget is after grants came in? Or is it before we got reimbursed for the grants? Was it 250?
Net, so it's after the grants.
So it's after. That's what I wanted to know.
Bob, could you pass another one of those revenue sheets down? Do you have another copy of it? Because mine disappeared, I don't know where. And I'm just sitting right here. That'd be great. Well, because they have options if they need more overtime, and because things are in such a state of, you know, we have the new police station, we have all these things going on, then, you know, that, there does, to me, I don't see, you know, when you get to the end of the year and you're saying, oh, we're really going over, there are options. So it's not like we're pulling the pegs out. So that's why.
We're not closing down the police department.
Exactly.
for
Mr.
But
Chairman,
I'm sorry, but
That
what
would
are,
be-
what are the options, Cynthia, other than just pull the money out of the fund balance?
No, like whether they have savings in their own account, and in the worst case, contingency or fund balance,
salaries.
if it's,
If people have retired.
you know, if there's some major catastrophe that, and the police department has used up all their funds, we would, you know, they'd come to the Board of Finance and you would have
The process is
recommendations.
after the end of the year, we do the transfers.
Right.
So there's gonna be accounts with a surplus, there's gonna be accounts with deficits. And we offset each one of them against each other, and overall, there's a surplus. There's always a surplus because you can't have a deficit. You know, so, we look at it that way too. Last year, I mean, they were surplus, you know, even with all the overtime, they were in surplus.
I just want to answer that. Okay. So Cynthia, is that what you meant by there are options?
Yes, the options.
All right.
Those were the options as laid out by our controller.
I'd like to say, I don't like that idea. Like, to me, that's not transparent to the community.
Well,
But
if they
we'll
come
come
to the
back
Board
to
of
that.
Finance for,
They may
I
just.
don't even know if it's happened, honestly.
Right.
I just,
So-
and this isn't an attack on anyone, but I hear about the police station often, and I just want to say, they needed a police station, we voted for a police station. That shouldn't be held against them in their operating budget. The operating budget is what the operating budget is, and that stands on its own. The police department, they needed and they got. So, you know, I've heard that before, well, they got a police station, well, just because they got a police station doesn't mean that police operations cease. They still have a important job to do, and they still need to perform that function effectively. So I just want to caution people from bringing that up as a reason to pull back from the police department.
To your point, Brian, I'm talking
I'm not-
about.
I'm not-
No, but I'm just saying, I understand exactly what you're saying, but because I want this to pass, and I know how people think that nobody comes to these meetings every day like we do. So, you know, they see police department with they're painting with a broad brush, and they will associate it. That's all. That's just the reality of it.
And
So-
you tell them no.
I will.
That's
I
not
try
the
to
way
spread
it
the
goes.
I try to
This is
spread
the
the
way it
message.
is.
I try.
Spread the message.
I have to get a YouTube channel.
Okay,
and
can we
spread the
just summarize, where are we right now? We've got an amended motion.
Cynthia amended the motion and asked to reduce line 107 by 15,000.
So it'd be
An
a
additional
total-
15,000 to bring it down to 208.
208.
Okay. Any more discussion on that motion?
You've swayed me, and I'm going to agree that it's not transparent and it's not realistic, and we know we're gonna go close to that number over, so.
We do?
Yeah, I mean, based on past years, it's been 250,000 for the past, however many years. I mean, I just base future, the best prediction of future is look at the past, right? So I agree, kind of like why I wanted to remove 2,000 from the line, because I just want to be as transparent as possible, and I do believe they probably will go over that number, so I agree with you, Bob.
We have a motion, I think we have to vote on it unless it's withdrawn. So those in favor of the motion to reduce Department 360, account 107 by an additional 15,000 to a new total amount of 208. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Raise your hand.
So it fails.
Not yet. Those against? No, it fails.
Democracy at work.
All right, so I take it that means we're back to the original.
Yes.
And the 238 is adjusted by the initial 15,000 to be a new total in Department 360, account 107 of 223,000. Okay,
And then we would,
we gotta vote on the total.
Can we just, or do you want to wait until the end, or can we just get an idea, because Brad's normally like that, like, where are we at for percentage increase for our total budget right now, Brad?
Total townwide?
Total. Combine everything.
Yeah.
School.
Total, so based on the full, like 74 million, 2.071.
2.07.
That's for combined Board of Ed and town. Okay, thanks.
everything.
Yes, that's what we have to vote on next. All right. We now have a motion to approve the total amount for Department 360. Brad, check my math, please. 4,570,424.
Yep.
Second, sorry,
We
wait,
didn't vote
on the
on-
We
15,000.
did vote on the,
15,000.
Yeah, we did.
I thought we did.
We did a show of hands.
That was a.
No, that was for the 30,000.
No,
No,
they
no.
did not
The
do,
additional-
you did not do the total for the
They
223.
don't need to. They voted on the amendment.
They voted on the amendment, right, wait. Yeah, they voted on the amendment.
The amendment for an additional 15,000 failed. So we're voting now on the original
democracy.
one that you said.
I thought we had already voted.
No.
We had agreed to the total of one on the 107 account. To bring it down
Well, I
to
can't hear you.
Let's keep it up until I pass out.
Well,
Yes, I think we did.
as long as that one passed.
It did.
That, okay. then I'm good.
Let's just have one discussion so that everybody can hear. I believe that we had a motion that passed. That motion was to take Department 360, 107 down by 15,000. And then there was an additional motion that was not passed that would have taken out another 15.
Correct.
And that went down 4 to 3.
Now we have to do the total,
Yep.
and then we're gonna need a break. All right, so,
So the motion that's on the tables
For the
now
total
is for the,
amount.
that had been made and seconded,
yeah.
was for the, new 4,570 something?
424.
Okay.
Robert, could you hear that down there?
No.
All
It's
right.
very hard to hear now.
We are now voting on the total.
Bottom line.
Bottom line for Department 360, and the total amount as amended or through the two accepted motions is $4,570,424.
Wait a minute, 400,
24.
4 million, how many thousand?
570,000.
How, if we were at, maybe my number's wrong here, if we were at
We went up
4,
60 and down
yeah.
15, right, you went up 16, down
Right,
15, so
okay,
it's
so-
45.
So then
Okay,
it should be
so
up 45.
Right.
Okay, so 4, got it.
Right.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
6-1. Let's take a break. Let's try to be back in
Just keep you on
10
line.
minutes, please.
I've been charged to Cynthia, but that extends one
Yeah,
beyond.
no, it's like, it takes a village, it takes a village.
It takes a village.
Control me, absolutely.
You could ride her coattails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
No,
sure.
Lily, it's thank you.
Yeah, really. Oh, this is good progress. You know, I don't want to come back tomorrow night. I really don't. Yeah, I mean, this is enough already. I can't let that go on and on and on.
I appreciate
I don't blame you, and I think, but I don't think police departments are, I don't personally, but like when we talk about yeah, I think letting an account just seems
No, I totally get that, but my people are big on roads too. So if they see a bridge, they're gonna, it's just gonna backfire.
You know, that's my question about that.
You know,
What's the issue? Like, if they got done next year instead of this year.
The roads are constantly under construction, whether it's today's one, whether it's mine. Because people go out of their houses and they're tired, you know, it goes into the field and they. Yeah, you're fairly good at going the roads. The people in the bed, the people in the Taylor.
Yeah, well, that
All of
is
them,
it.
right,
So I'm sure that's.
there are a lot of people living on Taylor, so
That
you.
happens in the last 4 months. I mean, I can't believe it. I've known
I
this
get
for
that. So for me, if that is reason to have a public hearing to say, well, we decided to take 100 out, because, you know, maybe a couple of roads won't get fixed until. We'll storm the gates. I mean, they won't at the public hearing, but they will at the referendum.
I know what happened, probably, when you did transfer station.
They're going into
For example,
such a
if you had
transition
wrote
that,
down. So you were
that
making
Dawes, so I
a
don't,
motion for the bottom
it's not
line.
even a time to
And
even
then
discuss it
some
with them
people
there.
made amendments, or I would have brought the line.
But I really.
When you made the motion for transfer station, you said, I move to approve
It is a lot of money, and then, but you know
245
what,
in the
honestly,
amount
anything you
of,
build, I wanna
including
even like,
$10,000
4 years ago,
reduced
I
to
just wanted to
160
build
in
a
the
part of my garage, like,
So the best thing,
something on top
the
of
clearest
that,
way to do it is
and
to
everything back
even
up.
if you had already planned to make an amendment, put the original amount on there.
Right, I know,
And
okay,
then
so
as
maybe,
soon as you-
okay, this is what's gonna cost it, and I don't.
Then you can even go immediately into the amendment, you know, I move to take $10,000.
They're going so far down, you can go,
So you break those into two separate motions, that way.
They want to
that
put
becomes a
in,
motion.
like the police have a Sally Port where they go inside to take out the prisoners so they don't run off into the field. They want to do the same thing with adults. Right now, there's no entrance.
I've got 90% of
You
it
know,
here. So
it's
this
not a
is-
smooth entrance, you have to take the dog out, whatever, it's in a crate. They want to be inside when they remove the dogs. And they want to, apparently it's very cramped and there's not,
I
whatever.
know.
So they just
Well, you
really
know,
just
it's interesting, if you go to places like Danbury and Newtown, you know, they have people critical, look at that beautiful room, they must have spent $500,000 on it, but they have a curved horseshoe shaped house room, and that's what
I mean,
they
all
see.
day.
And that's, I mean,
But see, then what happens is they come up with what's called a state mandate, you know, they're bearing down. Now, honestly,
I understand.
no, that's saying that's what
But
comes up all the
there's that
time.
many regulations. Reading doesn't even have a dog pound. You know, so we could just choose not to have dog pound. No one's telling us we
Right,
have to
that's
have a
true.
dog pound,
And
right?
we have canine
Well,
control.
which I'm grateful for. My dogs have ended up there. I'm grateful for that. But my only point is, it's how they
That
put
three
so
legged
much
beagle is
regulation.
right.
I have a beagle too.
You
He
two,
runs away.
you two are secret Republicans.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Because the fact that you don't like
Well, I
And-
just
and
don't
from-
understand, yeah, like, we're doing it, and they're forced to go to sleep.
Oh my God. What's the time? Look at the documents. I mean, if you can see the outcome of
Okay, be
what-
careful not to watch mine.
I won't.
Then we all have a
I
problem.
think she's in there, I just.
Oh,
Yeah, she probably did.
Like teachers aren't even allowed to be themselves, you know what I'm saying?
Or you
Like,
do.
can't-
You're creeping
can't-
into-
I mean, teachers have to do this, they can't say things, they can't do things, they can't.
See, I don't experience that at all, like,
But legally they can't.
No,
There's
it's
something
Robert,
about
I'm just
what,
talking.
if
We
you
have to
said
pay
something
very
like,
close attention
I don't
to
know, like,
the
oh, that's,
revenue versus
you know,
tax.
oh,
Yeah.
that's like to your dress, or.
If
I mean,
it's,
you
if
can't-
it's, I mean, you should have some.
I know you you know, these statutes and the mandates where you have the Common Core mandates that just are so strict that it costs, things that cost money to implement. But the state is going down the
And the
tubes
Randless
and
group are
pushing all the
2.6.
expenses and costs to the municipalities. That's a problem. See, we're
Will they
like-
give us some coverage? We'll see.
Because it wa-
It's so. I actually have a gavel.
I was ready to do the pledge of
Okay.
allegiance
Bring
again.
it in.
See, I'm patriotic.
We're going to come back from recess.
Okay.
And we will start with Department 380, Park and Recreation, excuse me. And I will make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's suggestion, recommendation, in total of $1,293,759.
And I will second that.
Discussion.
Can I just ask about contracted services? And the jump contracted services and what that's for?
In contracted services is the new mower. So it was in capital and it was also in the budget. And we elected on leaving it in the budget as a lease over the next 5 years, as opposed to putting it into capital equipment.
Okay, so that increase is just based on the lease of the new lawnmower.
Is there a truck lease in there as well? I know the
Yes.
truck lease.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Passes unanimously. Next department is 390, Employee Benefits. I will make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, in total, $5,898,235.
Excuse me, I will second that.
Discussion. Hearing none, we will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Passes unanimously. Next, we have Department 400,
I'm opposed to this one.
and it's really nothing we're gonna deal with,
Zero.
right? Because the 20 went into social services. We will go to,
405.
405?
yeah, 405. Yes, we go to Department 405. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation in a total of $443,425.
I will second that.
Is there a second? Excuse me, is there discussion?
I got a discussion. I have a one-woman discussion. So, I'm assuming that, Matt, you didn't get the sweetheart numbers. Obviously, we're gonna
No,
get those overnight.
he's not sure he can pull it out, he's gonna try, but I did talk
What do
to
you need?
the company.
Okay. Because here's where I am. I'm a little bit,
Energy? Yeah.
the van, okay, the van. I voted no on the van because I was concerned that it would become, it would start to increase in cost and whatnot. And when it was presented, it was not stated that the state requires that you run it 40 hours a week in order to make that grant viable. So that's one issue I have. I don't feel comfortable voting on this without knowing how the Sweetheart Bus ridership compares with, the ratio of seniors to non-seniors, because I think that we may wind up not having to contribute as much to Sweetheart Bus. So I feel that more needs to be determined. I'm not gonna make a motion right now to reduce it, because I'm just gonna, sit with the discussion, and I may make a motion, or just going on record.
Well, did the selectmen reduce this? Because the requested was 91,000. And then when you look, no,
No,
2000?
No, that's
No.
what
Oh,
they sent us.
oh, okay, that's what they sent you,
Yeah.
got it.
Request.
Okay.
I want to add something else too. Sometimes the HART system is eligible for state or federal transportation grants. And in some years, they have applied that to their client towns. It could be that, but I really can't tell.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, we will, oops, sorry.
No, I just, what are the ramifications of reducing the Sweetheart Bus? Is this based on, what is this based on? How do we pay them?
It's based on ridership. If you reduce it, they cut out routes, they cut out service.
So, because they send you a bill for, how does that work? Do
It's
you pay
based,
upfront?
yes, it's based on the prior year's utilization, and they estimate what you're going to pay and how much service they're gonna provide based on what's gone on the prior year.
But the,
No, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one other point. The van, I don't think, is gonna significantly impact utilization of Sweetheart, because Sweetheart was so overutilized that we had quite a few seniors who complained that they couldn't use it at all. So in other words, let's say if you put I'm drawing an
Yes.
imaginary graph with my hands. This is the utilization. There was some demand that was not being met, that's now gonna be met by our own van. That may cut into the Sweetheart utilization a little bit, but we have no idea. We have no way to estimate that right now, because it's not just for seniors, it's for anybody with mobility problems.
I appreciate your words. I was there for the presentation when, and I do understand that people were having problems accessing the Sweetheart bus,
Yeah.
which means they weren't providing that service for the people who couldn't get on the bus, basically. So, I still think that, there needs to be some more research on this, that's all.
And Cynthia, you had said you are not gonna make a motion
Yeah.
at this time, so is this a footnote for us to just follow up through
It's
the year?
just, just my thoughts.
Well, excuse
I'm
me,
not gonna make a
if
motion.
I'm understanding what Matt just said, it's, the billing for this year is based on prior year.
Mhm.
So that means if we're over funding this, then in the next year,
Correct.
it's gonna come down.
Correct.
Yeah, but-
So it's
But it has.
It adjusts itself, yes.
self-adjusting, yes, okay.
They also anticipate the routes that they're gonna do during the year, and the amount of ridership revenue they're gonna receive, and then reduce it, the amount available by the ridership revenue. So this would be the estimated potential for next year of the cost to them for the residents in Belleville.
Let me ask you this, Matt, is the senior van, strictly for seniors, like, do people have to prove they're seniors, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
it is only for seniors?
We don't make them show an ID.
Like, what if somebody really,
Yeah.
young looking, came up, that was a senior?
Yeah.
They're not gonna come pick you up, Cynthia.
Well, they might, I don't know. I don't
Actually,
know.
actually, Cynthia's gonna cause the
Right.
ridership to go up next year.
Oh, yeah, I'm using that van. No.
Need a ride home
All right.
tonight?
Okay, so do we have any more discussion for a vote? Let's vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
All right, 6-1. Moving on to Department 410 Utilities. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation for the total of $2,552,969.
That number's different than, I have 2,518.
Oh, because I'm on the wrong
Yeah, I have
column.
that too.
Oh.
$2,518,684.
I will second that.
Can I ask just a question? With the utilities, that covers all our gas, it covers the Amoresco, the lighting and all that.
Correct.
But would it be safe to cut a little from that number and still be safe, or do you think it's?
I wouldn't do that, because right now we're still trying to figure out what the total savings are. We have a lease payment that goes against the utility cost in here, and that's supposed to represent, well, it's the program cost of Amoresco of $4.5 million. And it's really like into the second year of the work that was done in the building, so it's been pretty much flat funded over the last couple of years. And I at this point, I wouldn't cut it. Maybe in a year or so, once we have some history, then maybe we'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Where do we use fuel oil? Isn't most of everything running on natural gas? Or where do we use fuel oil?
That's diesel fuel too,
Okay,
For the trucks.
for the trucks.
yeah. So is that exclusively diesel oil, or are there areas where we have furnaces that are oil-based?
Is it exclusively diesel, or is there also
There's
fur-
there's
furnace
gas and diesel.
oil in there?
She wants to know, do we have any oil furnaces that,
Yeah,
that
fuel.
heat? No.
Okay,
Well,
so it is
there's dual
exclu-
furnaces but right now, everything is running on gas.
So it's exclusively diesel that this fuel oil is paying for?
And, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? All right, we will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Unanimous. We're going to skip over 420 and come back and start with, move on to Department 430, Senior Center. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation in a total of $232,515.
I will second that.
Discussion?
4:30. Cynthia needs to get.
No, I'm okay. Can you stop it? I'm okay.
Oh, you want me to come? It's 4:30.
I'm cool, I'm cool. Yeah.
Are you cool and don't have discussion, or are you cool and
I
you
just
may
saw
have
that I found
discussion?
the page, so.
Told you she wasn't on the page yet.
Are we calling for a vote? or-
I have the same questions that I had for social services, in terms of the assistant center directors. And my understanding is that there are 3 assistants that are necessary. One assistant director
And 2 aides.
and two part-times.
Yes.
Okay. And that's just based on volume of work, or, and I know you did speak to that with the contracts with the unions, that they don't like you building a full-time person out of 3 part-time people,
Yeah.
because they think you're trying to
Yeah.
circumvent the process. So, I just don't recall if there were any specifics as to what has increased
Yes.
in the senior center.
What has
The
increased
work, the volume.
is membership. In the last couple of years, membership in the senior center has increased by 300 to 400 individuals per year. That's number one. And they've also added programs which are mostly self-funding. But there's a cost to administer those programs and just keep all the paperwork straight, because as I'll just remind you that in my presentation, I mentioned that several years ago, the patrons of the senior center used to pay the instructors directly. Now all of that is handled by the front office, so that taxes are accounted for and 1099 forms are correct, so that it keeps everything legal. The other thing that's happening is that the staff has to take over administration of the trips. The trips are self-funding, including administrative costs. So like the cruises, I think are $3,000 per person, like the river cruises. So those used to be run by the Friends of the Seniors. Now they're going to be run by the senior center staff themselves. So you don't see any numbers in there for the trips. They're held on a separate account because it's a pass-through. But again, the logistics of handling that have to go through the main office. So the
Okay.
workload has gone up substantially over the past few years as more and more people join the senior center.
So if there's more trips and more activities, wouldn't that stand to reason that the break even, like right now, last year,
Those trips are not on the revenue because like Matt had said, it's a pass-through.
yeah, I'm not
Okay.
quite sure what that
Well,
means.
basically, you got 10 people at $3,000, that's $30,000. You pay it out, it zeroes the account out. So we've set up a separate account in the balance sheet section of our financial, and we keep those separate, so at the end of the year, that number should be at 0.
And-
Or maybe there may be an additional amount in there just because there's a carryover trip going into July or August where they already collected funds in the current year.
So how does that cover, is it built into the fee that it covers the administrative aspect of it? I thought you s-
No, it
If there's a charge for a trip,
Right,
all right, you want to book a vacation, it's gonna cost you $3,000.
right,
And you pay that $3,000, it goes in as revenue, and then we pay it out to the
Well, the-
vacation center.
sure.
It zeroes out, that's all it is.
And you're asking if is there more in there that covers the
Because I
administration?
thought I just heard that it covers the activity and the administrative aspect of that activity.
It does not cover the additional staff time for the other activities, only for the trips.
For
So-
trips.
For trips, but keep in mind, the last couple of years, they've added 300 to 400 new members to the senior center and new programs. So that's the justification to take the part-time assistant and move it to full-time. Is that administration has to get bumped up.
So that other fee that might be added to that trip, and not
Yes.
considering that cruise, but if they go to the casino,
Yeah.
they may wind up with a couple of bottles of water and a little snack. Well, they'll add $20 or $15 to the cost of that trip into that account, and then that money, that extra money that's collected is used to purchase the snack for the people on the bus.
I get that. I guess what I'm saying is, the fees do not cover any aspect of the increase in the staff costs
No.
of, thank you, that's all I was asking. We're gonna practice our questions. That's all.
Okay, any more discussion? No, let us vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
6-1. Moving on to Department 435, the library. I will make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, a total of $877,556.
And I will second that.
Discussion.
Bob, I know it's a small number, but the telephone system seems to go up every
Got a whole
year,
new deal.
and that was last year. So I'm just wondering, is this like, can I ask Bob a question?
Can we talk about this?
No.
So,
What's, the question is, I couldn't hear you.
what's the increase in?
They had to go to a new telephone system.
Last year we did that.
After the library was renovated, the old phone system couldn't handle the
Right.
building anymore, and there were no more parts, it was obsolete.
Right, I'm just saying, is the
But
contract,
it's not- No, it's not gonna go up every year, it's done, that's a VoIP like we have here in Town Hall, so it's gonna be a set figure for quite some time.
And in previous capital plans, they were asking for a phone system for a while. They had a number of about 25,000 to replace a traditional system where you buy the system
Yeah.
and you still have to pay for it per year. So now all the equipment's leased, so you don't have to worry about equipment getting obsolete. I
Yep.
think if, once you hit 5 years, they'll come in and refresh everything at no additional cost.
Okay.
So it's more of a budget stagnant kind of number.
Thank you.
Okay, I brought this up last night, I'm gonna bring it up again, because I find it so disturbing. So first I'll just ask Matt, did you find out what the backstory is on the dumpster full of books?
Yes, I did.
And please tell me.
I don't have a full answer, but when Megan came and presented to Bob and Brad and I, she did mention, she came up with Ted Stevenson, the chair of the library board. She mentioned at that time that they were paring down the collections. Are you familiar with Bibliomation?
Yes.
Okay, so Bibliomation is the cataloging system that's linked into the state, so you can see where books are and pull from any library.
Mhm.
And the fee that the towns, that each library pays to be a part of that goes up in stages as your collection goes up. Ms. Dean has identified several thousand books that haven't been checked out of the library or pulled off a shelf in a decade. And actually, some of them more than a decade. So they're going through those old, and in many cases, those are duplicate copies of things that are, they're still being held in the library.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I am with you all the way to the dumpster.
Oh, I'm not sure it's a
Whatever-
dumpster, you know, it.
Oh,
Well,
really?
I'm sorry,
Winter Brothers?
let me,
But it's a
Can-
problem.
can
Okay,
we
can I finish,
couch-
please? Would you mind if I
I
finish?
don't mind, but it says Winter Brothers on it, so.
It could be recycling. It is probably recycling, and I really think you owe it to the library staff to know those things before you bring it up in a public meeting, because
Actually,
it casts,
I can-
excuse me, I'm speaking. It casts a negative light that I don't think is fair, because we didn't, it's an answer that you could have gotten from the
You can-
library staff
it mi-
beforehand.
Well, I just got
I'd
the
like to
picture.
just time out.
I'm still
Time out.
discussing.
I would just ask you, Cynthia, to please ask the question as it relates to some of the accounts in the budget, please.
Okay, I was just talking in terms of
I
the
know,
bottom
but
line.
let's just kind
I was
of keep it
talk-
relevant.
I was talking in terms of the bottom line
What-
because.
what specific item?
I'm going, the bottom line amount.
Well, the bottom line is an aggregation of several individual
I
accounts.
understand that.
So if there's a relevancy
Okay.
to one of those accounts,
Then,
please direct the comment to that
okay.
account.
I do have one more comment to finish that statement, though. Winters Brothers does recycling for this area, too.
Oh, I know, I'm aware of that. I'm just saying that anytime, my problem with the library is, and always has been, that I believe that they could make more of an effort to to reduce their budget by raising money. And to see all those books where it's very common for other libraries who they have a whole second floor to have a used bookshop area or to consign books or to even donate them. So I'm just, you don't have to advocate for the library. I'm simply putting my opinion out there about ways that we can streamline things and that is not wasteful, because I consider that wasteful. You're not gonna talk me out of that. I consider that wasteful. So my problem is I cannot support this bottom line, believing that there are some holes in, as far as them managing the money. That's just my opinion.
No, listen,
It's an
time out,
opinion.
please. Please. We took your comment, we got it.
Mhm,
It's
okay.
respectfully now to be considered. I would like us to either talk about something specific in the budget,
Okay.
or let's vote on
Very
it.
good.
I think your question, Cynthia, pertains to revenue, right? Maybe a bookshelf or whatever operation. I just think we do not need to
No.
talk about it we don't need to belabor it.
Mr. Chairman?
First it weighs.
Yes.
I do need to correct the record on this. The library does have a used book selling operation through the Friends of the Library, through the bookseller.
Okay.
They also, so they donate books that are in sellable condition. It makes no sense to package books to give away and pay for those if they are not sellable. That's when the recycling comes in. So the implication that they're mismanaging their funds, I think, is false. And I just want that on the record.
Well, I want on the record that there are many places that don't charge shipping and it doesn't cost them anything to sell.
And I would move the question.
Good.
Fair enough.
Thank God.
Voting in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Nay.
All right, let's move on to Department 440, debt service. I'd make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation in a total amount of $3,939,238. Discussion.
Do we have a choice?
You could increase
Well,
it.
thanks.
I'm just kidding. I know we have no choice.
Well, I do think it's important to note that we have a plan to pay off our short-term debt, which will, in a rising interest rate environment, save us money, and it will create capacity for when other projects come online. So a more holistic view would be to understand our long-term view that Bob talked to us about in terms of short-term debt. This account is consistent with that longer-term plan.
I'm fully supportive of paying off our.
So should we see a reduction of that for next year?
Yeah, presumably, right, you'll see payments, fewer payments necessary to bring down principal, you'll see less interest. All good things. All right, I would ask if there's any more discussion. Not hearing any. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. Moving on to Department 450, the Board of Education operating expense. I would recommend accepting the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, a total amount of $45,116,282.
And I will second that.
Discussion.
Can I just ask, the SROs that are in the schools, who pays for their equipment and their salaries? The police department pays the full amount?
They are, when we file with the state at the end of the year to calculate cost per student, they are allocated to the board for that filing. But in an operational, in normal operations during the year and coming out of a budgetary line in the town, they come out of the police department.
No, I just, want to ask a question, and I probably know what the answer is going to be. If I was to make the motion to reduce your budget by 15,000 to help pay for the cost of the additional officer, am I dramatically altering education to the town of Bethel? I don't want to hurt your mission, but I also want to see this budget pass. So I know you took a $50,000 cut from the, the Board of Selectmen, but, we're going to add an additional police officer, and any cooperation or guidance that you have before I make a motion would be greatly appreciated.
I would say that one has nothing to do with the other in terms of, the town is still going to transfer the full amount of in-kind services to me at the end of the year with the filing with the state. So I wouldn't, if you were gonna propose reducing our budget, I wouldn't tie it to.
I'm just being honest with you, why.
Specifically, because I don't think.
I'm not saying to tie it to anything, I'm just saying, I'm asking you if based on my reasoning, that was my recommendation, is it such a substantial hit to your budget that it's gonna cause issues for you? That's what I'm asking. I'm not, forget about the police department, forget about anything. I wanna know if I'm looking to come up with 15,000, am I dramatically hurting the mission of your department?
It's dramatic, right? So I think that, it's gonna affect something. It's gonna affect supplies, it's gonna affect some kind of non-payroll items. I would not like that.
Yes, and we are down 3 teaching positions in what we presented. Two and a half FTEs with our 3 teaching positions in there.
Correct. So, I mean,
As a result,
it's hard to do, right? Because something's gonna go as a result of that.
are we down 2.5 positions as a result of that $50,000 decrease?
No.
Oh.
We actually went into the budget down.
Yes.
So,
Bob or Brad, how much would fit a $15,000 reduction? How does that even affect the bottom line of this account? Tell me what dollar
For any
amount.
reduction, right now, the increase in the total budget is 2.071%.
For both, right?
Combined, everything.
I gotcha.
So take it from 2.071 to 2.05,
And dollar wise?
$15,000.
Yeah, no, dollar wise, like per person, per.
Well, until we have.
Like, does it even have an impact really?
Taxes later on, probably not. That's too
Well,
small of a number.
Right,
I understand.
Well, here's where I'm going with this, and it's not only the Board of Education. Psychologically to me, I would like to see the budget, like Paul had mentioned, 2% or below is what psychologically I think is a reasonable number. We've increased, and again, we had rational discussion. We've increased the proposal by probably over 140,000. I'm not a mathematician, but I think from where we started, we've gone over 140. Am I close?
143.
All right, so 143. So, personally, I would be fine with even reducing my request for reducing the Board of Education, but I'd also like to revisit the road maintenance account and shave a little there, where we're still increasing it more by the 100,000, the road construction account, I'm sorry, not maintenance, I misspoke. And we could get down to a number that I think the voters will approve. Because again,
We're on the Board of Ed. Brian, let's stay on the Board of Ed, please.
Well, I'm trying to say.
I understand.
Well, I think I should
but
have the right to, I'm just trying to say where my rationale is going, to explain that. I'm just not picking on the Board of Ed.
We don't need to editorialize, right? We understand that you have a 2%
Okay.
bogey, perhaps Paul has one, others may have different bogeys. I think the negativism is not helpful.
How am I
These are-
being negative?
No, I'm just saying,
Negative.
these are good economic times. We can debate that either way. Let's stick with the numbers and the discussion in front of us, please. All right, so do you have a motion that you want to make regarding account Department 450.
And I have to say, I mean, you know, $15,000 is not gonna stop operations.
No, but I think I'm always fair, and I give people,
I think we came in with a very conservative budget, knowing what it was coming to.
Serving more kids with greater needs, it's just our reality, Brian. Well, it's not.
Make a motion, if you have one, please.
I make a motion to reduce the Board of Ed's budget by $7,500 is my motion.
I'm sorry, how much was that?
7,500.
7500?
7500.
I'll second that.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Let us vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion fails.
Aye for yay.
5-2.
5-2.
Who's yay?
Brian?
Who's yes?
Oh, I'm sorry, me. I
Ryan
made the
is-
motion.
Who's
I
yes?
made the motion, so.
Okay, so we are now down to the total, or is there further discussion?
I just want to know about ECS. And I'm just going to round it to $1 million that is still in flux. So what happens if they give all the ECS? Is that what this budget is based on? Because that's been the prevailing question.
The budget's not based, it's not, it's an expenditure budget. ECS comes with revenue to the town, so it's based on just expenditures. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, the ECS is not $10 million.
I know.
It's
I said-
7.
I know.
I thought
I
you
said
said 10.
they're keeping back $1 million from 8
It
million.
was 8 million last year and prior years.
Yes.
So now it's down to 7.
I know.
So that goes into the revenue calculation,
Right.
all right, and you determine all of your revenue along with your tax revenue, and that's what creates your mill rate.
Right, so that's my point, is that we don't really know what our mill rate is going to be, because we
Right.
don't know whether we're getting the ECS.
Well, we have to make some assumptions, and the assumption is gonna be conservative at $7 million, or maybe even less.
Okay, and by the same token, we don't really know the results of the reval. We just don't know a lot about where it's gonna put the mill rate. Do you have any idea?
No, not at this point.
Yeah,
But I
so,
mean, the budget is based on expenditures.
I understand.
What the voters vote on is for expenses, not revenue.
but they
It's just
will,
out of courtesy that we give them an approximate mill rate, but the mill rate is actually calculated after the referendum is completed and passed.
right, but I think you can get a good idea if a budget is going to pass, how that will affect the mill rate, depending on the percentage of increase of the budget. Is that true?
That's true.
Right. So that's my concern, but, I think, I'm not even gonna presume to make a motion to cut any more from the education budget, because I sat through all those workshops, everything is very well presented. I don't presume to know the vagaries of, everything that they're doing, I just don't. I like a lot of things that they're doing right now, and, but I do wanna go on record saying that I'm of the opinion that the negotiated contracts are a big obstacle, because it's like we look at this little sliver of pie and that's all we can look at, and I think it's unfair in general, and I know we can't do anything about it, I know we can't vote on it, but I think it makes it more of a struggle for the Board of Ed to even make what I would consider a reasonable budget based on that. So that is just my opinion.
Any further discussion? All right, so we're going to vote on the motion of 45,116,282. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
No.
Nay.
Moving on to Department 460. Board of Ed operating, or capital, excuse me?
Maintenance.
Maintenance, yes, maintenance. I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, total amount $500,008.
I will second that.
Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous. We're gonna go to 330. All right, so we're gonna go to Department 330, registrars.
330?
330. The charter requires us to review all elected official salaries, the budget process in advance of the voting cycle. Registrars are up for vote this coming November, so this is the budget cycle in which we have to set their salaries. Bob, I'm going to need some help navigating through this. I believe you're saying that it may already be in contingencies and we just need to
Correct.
bring it
It's already
into.
included in the wage contingencies. So it's just a matter of determining the salary and moving those dollars to account 330.
And can you, do you happen to have those dollar amounts?
They requested 1,500 each.
Oh, that's it? Oh, okay.
It's right here.
Okay.
They requested an additional
They were requesting
$1,500.
$17,000
Oh.
from 15.5.
Right, an additional 1,500 each, right? Or
Per
1,450 per registrar.
And they brought some of their expenses down.
Yes.
So they are 1,550 right now.
That 15,500.
Okay. Yep, 15.5.
So in contingencies is an amount of 1,500 per registrar?
1,500 for each registrars and $500 for the deputies.
Do we have to move that from contingency?
You can make that
to
motion to
here?
move it, yeah.
And I'm sorry, so 1,500 in,
What I would do is make one motion to add here, then go to that department,
Pull it
wages
out.
and transfers, and make a second motion to reduce the contingency.
and I'm sorry, Bob, the deputy registrars, how many are there?
2,
So $1,000?
yes.
So
Can we do this
3,000
in
and
one motion, or
1,000.
do we have to do it by account?
And do it by account.
Okay. I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to increase Department 330, Account 101, by $3,000 to a new revised total of $34,000.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Not hearing any, we'll vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. Second motion. Department 330, Account 102, Deputy Registrars. I'll make a motion to increase the $10,000 balance by $1,000.
And I'll second that one as well.
Discussion? Hearing none, we will vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Unanimous? So now I guess we have to do the total for Department 330. It'll go to 90, if I got my math right, Brad, 99,350?
100,
It's 3 and 1.
4.
Four altogether.
Yep. Okay.
103,500.
$100,350.
Yes.
Seconded?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Not hearing any, we'll vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. So Bob, now where do we go for contingencies?
420.
420.
So is it simply taking 4,000 out of 350?
Contingency of 187.
Okay, so 353. All right, so I'll make a motion to Department 420, Account 353, to reduce the total balance by $4,000 to a revised total of $183,529.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Who's in favor?
Aye.
Against? Unanimous.
Do we need to do a bottom line on that account or
Yes.
bylaw?
Well, I don't know, Bob, do you want to do anything else with this account?
No.
You have to approve the account. You haven't done that yet.
Oh, that's right.
We have to do the 370.
Yeah,
We have to do the bottom line on this one, too.
yeah, but,
420.
Yeah.
yes. But there may be other
Oh, there may be,
adjustments.
okay, right.
I would like us to, so we're good, but for account 370, I'd like us to consider moving much of what we are going to bond into the 370 account under 420. We have a rising interest rate environment. We have good economic times. This is the time to put the amounts in the budget. It is more transparent, and it will save the town interest expense. We have historically bonded these kinds of projects, which is the equivalent of paying for them on a credit card. My recommendation would be to suggest paying for them in cash, stopping the use of the credit card, stop incurring high interest borrowing, and see if the town will accept paying for these amounts directly in a transparent way, as opposed to putting it through a capital account that is off budget. So that's what I would like us to consider. And I'd make a first step, perhaps, of moving or increasing the 370 account to $1 million. And then taking what we would we would go bond, we'd put it under that account. With the goal, with the goal being to eventually be paying for everything in cash, incurring no debt, and paying basically nothing with our credit card.
What would that do to the percentage, Brad?
You're proposing making $1 million, not increasing it.
Making it 1 million, so an
Yeah.
increase of 775.
Based on that, based on the.
There has to be a second to discuss.
I'll second.
We have a second.
Oh,
So the total budget percentage increase would be 3.133.
It's like a 1%.
And what's interesting is that if somebody were to go do this calculation last year, the number that Brad just quoted is lower.
mm-hmm.
So last year, when we spent money in cash and spent money on a credit card, it came out to a higher percentage. And we incurred interest expense on top of it. The theory is, if we can't afford it today, we're not going to be able to afford it tomorrow with interest on top.
This is a proverbial con where you kick the can down the road. And, you know, we need to pick a place to kind of stop that irresponsible fiscal activity and make a stand and build this account and pay off. So, you know, it's, you know, will the town accept it? Don't know, but this is a correct thing to do for the town's behalf and for the future of Bethel.
I'm logically, my logic mind says yes, of course. But there are some capital items on the table that we have yet to discuss, and I'm thinking that
Fair.
those,
Yep.
this money will be used to fund those capital projects. So I believe that we need to discuss those first.
Well,
I'm not comfortable.
I understand what you're
saying.
I understand
literally.
too. I think we have to set the concept and the approach first, and then we fill in the specifics if we agree to it. Ryan?
Our fund balance has grown to almost $15 million. We always have a surplus in our collections. Rather than increasing our budget this year, why wouldn't we supplement it from the general fund and then work towards when we have a surplus, doing it that way, rather than asking the budget now to go to a 3.1. Just pull the money. If you want to do that, we can pull it from the general fund and move it into that account. And it is what it is, and we see, you know, what our collections are. I mean, we always have a surplus at the end of the year, because I believe, Bob, you figure 98.1, 98.7, and we normally have a 99.8.
No, 99.1.
I'm just saying, collection rate, right?
No, look, that's a great
I
question,
support
Brian.
that.
Here's the reason why we can't do that just yet. We've got credit card balances. We've borrowed capital in the past. Bob's got a plan to use the surplus to pay down the short-term debt. We've got
How much is that?
10.5. We've got $10.5 million of short-term debt that is not police station related. We've gone through it, Bob, you know this stuff better than me. We've gone through it. About $6 million of it looks to be incurred in connection with capital-like expenses. So maybe we put that onto a long-term bond, lock in these lower rates in what is an increasing interest rate environment. Right? For those of us who follow this stuff, the Fed Reserve has said they're going to increase interest rates 3 to 4 times in the next coming year. So that's a good reason to lock in long-term. We have about $4,500,000
Yeah, I mean, if
short-term.
we were to, we're gonna make another $800,000 payment in June on the short-term debt. And then we have included in here, I forget the exact number, but it's around $1.2 million. So that payment will be made in next fiscal year, once this budget is passed. That along with, that will come at a time when the PD will be ready to be bonded. So we will take the long-term items that are in the short-term debt, piggyback that with the long-term debt bond for PD, okay? Items that have, like trucks that have been purchased 2 or 3 years ago will be front-loaded into the bonding because we can't borrow something that has a useful life of 5 or 10 years and put it out for 20 years. You gotta pay for it during the useful life of that asset. So it would be front-loaded. And then anything left, we possibly could take what's in the fund balance and pay off the remaining short-term balance, and you won't have any debt. But this is a key to moving forward and establishing those sinking funds, so to speak, where you can buy the fire truck after a couple of years, or big plow trucks for the highway department. And you can build up a reserve in those accounts that are gonna help the town, and it's fiscally sound. I mean, the rating agencies will like this plan because you're buying capital assets with it, you're improving your properties, your infrastructure, and it can only maintain the AAA rating.
Have we ever done this before in good times? Because I don't have any recollection.
Nothing like this ever before.
Right, so how come? If it's
the
It's a new world. We have new sheriffs in town.
Well, there's a new sheriff in town for sure, but I mean,
No,
we had times, you know,
Look,
we
what the
had
town
fat
did
times and
in incurring the short-term debt initially was exactly what financial people would tell you they should have done.
Uh-huh.
Right, when it hit the fan in 2009 and 2010, what Bob and the team, Matt, Rich, Paul did was exactly what should have been done. They borrowed short-term debt to smooth out what were rough seas. Well, now we're in good times. Put aside negativity, put aside the emotion. We've got great economy right now.
I'm not emotional.
Nearly,
Just
no,
so you know, I have no
nearly,
emotions.
just looking at data-driven, right? Nearly full employment, rising wages, increasing home values, increasing stock market, all the indications that this is the time to pay off our credit card debt that we incurred for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so to your point, why have we not done it before? We haven't been in this high
Okay,
column.
so here's what I'm saying, the people I represent, they'll like the idea, because that's how we think, you know, I pay cash, my house is my only liability, that's how I live my life. However, it's going to, the fact that it's going to increase the bottom line percentage so much is going to not go over very well, so.
Well, but that's part of the education process, right? So it's not that we're not incurring the money. We're borrowing on a credit card and we'll have to pay tomorrow. Unless you're saying we whack out all of these capital items, which then I understand what you're saying.
That's all I'm saying.
So you're saying get no capital
I'm
items.
not making the suggestion that we wipe out the capital plan, right, you know, I'm not. I'm just saying that if we do this, and this budget is presented,
Yep.
it's going to show an increase of, I don't remember what Brad said, but it had a 3 in front of it, I believe. And I don't know when you mean education, if you're thinking education, educating the people at large,
Yeah.
okay, I've been doing this for 15 years, I don't know, I mean, I understand what you're saying, I don't know. I just don't, people think what they think.
Yep.
That's just what I just don't think I could sell it.
I think we agree with that. I think our argument is, as finance people on the Board of Finance, it's our fiduciary responsibility, obligation, to advise the town on what we think is the best financial approach
Okay.
to these items. And look, again, compared to last year's increase, this is actually less, but it's going
It
to have to
should
be
be
understood,
less,
right?
because-
That by putting things on capital, on the credit card, it's not like it's free. You still have to come back at some point in the future and pay for it.
Is there a way to perhaps talk about this in terms of, if it does increase by 3%, what is the average impact to the average taxpayer? Like, is there a way to talk about that in dollars?
Yes.
Like, right now?
We should do that at all levels, right?
Because we don't know the mill rate, we don't know a lot of things, yeah.
Like, any guesstimate of what?
The one thing also that we gotta keep in mind is the state is instituting a 2.5% cap on expenditures. All right, there's no penalty for it right now. So if you look at the 3 point, whatever the number is that Brad gave you, we're above the 2.5%. But going forward, once we institute it, we'll be okay. We'll stay below the 2.5 as long as expenditures in future years stay below that number. You know, if we maintain $1 million.
So, Cynthia, to your point, if we think that this is conceptually the right approach, we need to go through the specifics and fill up capital non-recurring to the extent of $1 million.
This is tough. It's tough. Just, you know, I mean, I'm not a snake oil salesman, so it's not like, I mean, I can explain the logic behind it, but the idea is also to get buy-in. So in my tiny brain, the only way that I could make this justifiable is to decrease expenses in other accounts. That's just how I feel.
In the capital or the other
No,
operating?
in the operating budget.
Well, then people
But
need
we
to
already went
understand.
through the operating budget.
I think, you know, we have to help folks understand that putting items on credit card is not free.
I think a lot of people know that.
Like I said,
Then then it's a real easy story, right? It's easy to
yes, I know.
translate.
but Bob, and you can say it's rosy, I can say I don't think Connecticut's doing as well as the rest of the nation. My point is that we've collected more than we've spent over the years. We have a $15 million fund balance. We can phase this in and take some money from the fund balance to lessen the impact to the taxpayer. It's their money.
Agreed.
They were over, I don't want to say they were overtaxed, I hate using that word. It was just we came in under budget and we were able to put the money away.
But that's not true, Brian. That's factually incorrect. They weren't undertaxed because we have a whole lot of debt. That debt, again, isn't free. So now what we do is we take the excess to pay off the debt. That way, the taxpayer is whole. But we incurred $22 million of short-term debt.
And then moving forward, if we do have any excess, instead of putting it all into the fund balance, I don't know if it's possible, but if we could take that money and use that for our sinking funds, setting aside ample amounts for funding our fire apparatus. There was some improvements that needed to be done at the transfer station to set that in. Setting money aside for things like boilers, big infrastructure needs.
Well,
Save some of it, reduce some more debt.
If that number comes from surplus and expenditures, you can do that.
We can
If
do
it comes
that?
from revenue, you can't.
Okay. So,
But I mean, to Brian's point, if you didn't want to do the million,
well,
maybe
whatever
there's
that
another
amount,
number,
right.
750 or 500.
Oh.
Brad just did 500, and it's 2.45% increase.
But
Is that
500
more
doesn't get you
palatable
enough
to the
stuff.
voters?
But
You know?
why is that more palatable if we're just putting more on the credit card?
Right. Does that mean
I
we're not?
agree, but I mean, maybe it's the same theory that, you know, when we had the roads at $200,000, we worked up to 800. We took baby steps. So now you do the same thing with, you know, the capital non-recurring, and you go from 225 to 500, and maybe next year 750.
But then the
That's fund
items, though, are you proposing or suggesting that we then don't fund any of the other items?
You mean
Or
capital
still,
items?
right, or
Right.
still borrow that? if we're still going to borrow it, then what's the point?
Right,
You know,
it's-
look,
you're not
maybe-
getting
Where's the
ahead.
lesson?
Maybe we just do with the million, and we go to public hearing. We try to explain it to people and hear what they have to say. I disagree with Cynthia. I think the people in Bethel are financially savvy. They're sophisticated enough to know what a credit card use is, that paying high interest is not what you want to do in high times. You want to use your cash and strengthen your balance sheet. I'm willing to vote, I'm willing to put my faith in the people in Bethel that they're going to understand that argument.
And I have the utmost faith in the people of Bethel, and I know that the people that I talk to think that our operating budget is too high. So to your point, yes, I'd be happy to stick 750 grand in here. But compared with that, they're all gonna know that you're correct. I mean, that is a good move. But they're also gonna be looking at those expenses, and that's the rub. It's not because you want to fund, increase the balance here. Maybe we need to take baby steps with the capital plan. I mean, it's full speed ahead most of the time. So, maybe we gotta take a look at stuff, and be more, circumspect about what we can afford.
And Cynthia, I want to make sure I understand. When you say baby steps in connection with the capital plan,
Capital non-recurring, or things that aren't urgent, things that aren't, like.
so going through this list and maybe bouncing some of the items.
Yes.
As a member and one member, I would have appreciated more time to understand this, to see it written down. I mean, personally, I think it should have been presented to the selectmen so they had an opportunity to mull it over. It's just, to me, it's like just a shot out of nowhere, and I would have liked at least paperwork and some warning and something I could have read and digested and understood, rather than saying, you have 5 or 10 minutes to make a decision on this.
Because if the Board of Selectmen had approved this as if, the way you're saying, then we would have something else to go on. We'd say, okay, this has been vetted to a certain degree, so right now it's coming out of.
And I think it's not fair to the Board of Selectmen that it wasn't presented to them, because they have a big say in the budget process too. And I think that's checks and balances in the way it works. That's just my personal opinion.
Can we briefly go over some of the capital items that we would like to see? Are we in agreement with the board, the recommendations and the possible capital non-reoccurring? What, I don't want to say to the fire department, we'll do the hose washer, but we're not gonna replace your self-contained breathing apparatus bottles,
Well, I would reverse that. I would give them the breathing thing.
And, consequently, the same thing, either these are capital projects that are needed, or they're capital projects that are not needed. They're not going away, they're not gonna get any cheaper. I think we need to be responsible and fund what we're supposed to fund.
I mean, the Board of Selectmen have provided us with a path. And I think the path is that the items listed under capital non-recurring are spread through the fiscal year 18 and 19 calendars. So that kind of addresses the $362,816 worth of items. And if I was following the path that the Board of Selectmen laid down in front of us a few days ago, and we've talked about it a little bit, unfortunately, we haven't had a full board to kind of talk about it completely. But we've talked about some of these capital accounts. And so the question would be, in the 2.1, or the 2,120,500, how much of that do we think we want to shift over to capital non-recurring? So I'll throw it out there as a suggestion. If following the path set for us by the Board of Selectmen, it could be taking the items earmarked for capital non-recurring, putting them in those accounts, and now our discussion is narrowed to the $2,102,500 worth of items.
I just want to ask a question on the Park and Rec, the needs assessment master plan. I know it was supposed to be about 60,000.
Yes.
And you guys, proposed 30,000.
Yes.
Was that to consider setting aside money one year and then money next year? Or what does if 30,000 doesn't buy us the whole plan?
It doesn't. Yeah,
Currently,
I'm
the-
glad.
Currently, planning and zoning is doing their update, plan of development. I'm hoping they can piggyback with that.
Yes, but well, first of all, just as a point of order, I want to remind you that you're straying into the other area, and you have an active motion on the floor. But to Wendy's question, and you guys I didn't have a chance to talk to you about this earlier, Park and Rec mentioned to me today that we should either pull this off or fund it at 60, because 30 isn't gonna, it'd be a waste of money. It's not gonna be enough to do what we need to do on that. So
What?
personally, my preference would be to fund it, but if we need to cut, it doesn't make sense to put it in there, because it's not gonna give the department the information that they need.
Why could this not be part of the 10-year plan, as far as the study for the conservation plan? Why couldn't this be incorporated into it and be
It's-
zero?
Because it's a separate part of it. It is incorporated at 60,000, and 60,000 gives the department the information that they need for long-term planning.
Right,
The
I understand
30,000
that,
doesn't.
but I mean, I'm saying whatever there's costs associated with the 10-year plan, no?
Yeah.
Right, this plan be absorbed, this study be part of that picture.
It's 60,000 more, no matter how you cut it. It has to
I
be
don't
put
understand
somewhere.
that.
But again.
I think we have to get back to the first
Yeah,
point of
you're right,
order
yeah.
here. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm kind of
I'm
getting
sorry.
lost in conversation, so.
Yeah, it's your fault.
I know.
All right, so I believe the motion that we can make is to increase Department 420, account 370, to a balance of $1 million, an increase of $775,000.
I'll second it. Or did I already?
You already
did. Yeah, already.
Sounded familiar.
Any further discussion?
Okay, so then what we need to do is go through this list that's been recommended and determine what we want to put in there. That's our next mission here.
No,
Okay.
the next mission would
To
be
vote
approve
on.
it.
Right,
If
approve it.
It's not there,
Right,
That's it.
it's not there.
okay.
So any,
I just, again, I'm just going to reiterate that I think that this should have been presented prior to this meeting. I don't think anyone, unless there was a caucus and I wouldn't have information about that, I don't think anyone can make an informed decision except you, Mr. Chairman, who's very familiar with this. I mean, you're asking me to approve $750,000 on something, to be honest with you, I haven't gotten, Mr. Kozlowski's opinion on it, who, over the years I trust. When I ask for financial information, I ask the guy that we pay, and find out what his opinion is. And like I said, I know you're saying we've been on the credit card. We've also built a savings account that could help phase this in, which we have. We've built a savings
And
account.
build up a rating.
And, we've built up a good rating, and this is something we could start, but start it with a little bit of savings and not, it's kind of like going to the bank for a construction loan. They're not going to give you the full amount. They're going to say, well, you got to put some of your own capital up, and then we'll discuss it. I mean, you're asking the voters basically to say, hey, we want to start paying down our debt by $1 million, which is a great idea. We have $15 million in surplus, but we just want to increase what you're already paying now to accomplish that, rather than starting off with a small amount out of the general fund and building it up. That's my opinion on it, so I think you know how I'm going to vote.
Ditto.
and Bob, can you and the team put together a spreadsheet that suggests the direction that we're talking about? Using the capital fund to pay down debt, short term to start, rebonding, refunding the other short term, and then how this is really no different than what we've done in the past, except we're saving interest expense.
Yeah, I can put something together.
We've got a town meeting March 20th, so that's a lot of time
Public hearing.
Public hearing, excuse me. Plenty of time to think about it, and we can, as a board, get together again as a special meeting.
So we're not gonna vote on it now, is that what you're saying?
Well, we have to, there's a motion on the table.
There's a motion on the table. Just recess this. On the schedule, there's a meeting that we already have planned if necessary for tomorrow. If you want a little bit more time and want to cancel that meeting for tomorrow, maybe Friday afternoon if people are available, or, pick a date, but.
Will we have enough time, lead time to meet the public hearing,
Public
Yes.
hearing's the 20th.
the notices and stuff? Okay.
We've
Well-
done that before, we've met like a half an hour prior to public hearing.
I just want to be honest so I don't waste people's time. I'm pretty sure whether it's today or
Yeah.
tomorrow, I'm probably going to vote no. So don't hold up on my account is what I'm trying to say.
And so am I.
All right,
So
I'm being
you got
honest
two
with
no votes, so
you.
if you
Okay,
can-
so if the other members feel they need
I
more
mean-
time, I don't want to inconvenience them with another meeting if they've already made up their
I
minds.
agree with that.
That's helpful, thank you very much. So then I'm gonna suggest we vote.
Mhm.
So we have, the motion on the table is to increase Department 420, account 370 by $775,000 to $1 million.
And I seconded it
Yeah, and we've
twice.
had discussion. Lucky third time. All right, we've had discussion, let's vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those
We have
against?
show hands.
Do I need to
Those
raise my hand?
against? Those against?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Now, do we want to go through the capital account tonight? Bottom line number, sorry.
We have to do the bottom line.
Yep,
Just
fair enough.
for the bottom line and stuff, okay.
Fair enough. All right, so for Department 420, bottom line number is now,
$1,276,029. So $1,276,029.
And you took out the $4,000.
Yes.
Yes. And I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Discussion, any more? Not hearing any, we will vote. Who's in favor?
Aye.
Who's against?
So, I don't even know where we're at. I'm still in shock, so
What
I'm
did we
trying
just vote
to.
on?
What line were we just voting on?
That was the bottom line to that account.
I'm sorry, let me.
Oh, I vote no.
That account,
All right,
nay.
obviously,
Okay.
we're going to be nay.
Yep.
Okay.
So you need a new bottom line for the town that includes town operating, Board of Ed maintenance, and debt service. That number would be $30,136,242. So $30,136,242.
That's town operating budget?
That is
Town,
town with the Board of Ed
Debt.
maintenance with the debt. So it's the referendum line.
460.
What are the last three numbers, three digits, Brad?
242.
Thank you.
And we have the Board of Ed's.
What's the town operating budget by itself?
Town by itself is $25,696,996.
Okay.
25,696,996.
And the grand total is now,
$75,252,524. 75,252,524.
Increase.
3.133%.
I'm sorry, Brad, one more time, 3.11?
3.133.
Thank you. So what do you want to do? Do you want to go through the capital account?
Decide what we need.
These are all going into. Oh, okay. we have to address, and we're gonna put those.
Right.
Which one of those in capital non-recurring? Yes. Bob, Brad, can we get your guys' help? We're talking about shifting from the credit card, the $2,102,500 to cash payments, or the account we just talked about. Can you just help us fill up that account
You
using?
still have to vote on the bottom line of the budget
All right.
before we move to capital. Well, you got the total town side and then the total budget. Board of Ed, you don't need to vote on already, again, because you did it.
All right, so-
136, 242.
No, that's, we gotta do it piecemeal.
You said town debt, you want,
Town-
we could do
Town, Board of Ed maintenance and debt.
as one number.
As one.
Yeah.
And that's the 30.
31, 36, 242.
So that's town operating,
Mhm.
Board of Ed, maintenance,
And debt.
and debt.
What was that number, Brad, combined?
30,136,242.
Yep.
So that's what this, that, and debt service. So Brad, help me out. What's the terminology for the motion?
Wendy would probably know better, but it's the town side budget.
Call for a motion to recommend to the public hearing on March 20th, fiscal year proposed budget, the town side of the budget, debt service, and 460 Board of Education maintenance, the sum of $30,136,242 as one motion. You second my motion.
I second that. Discussion?
And then we vote on that, yep.
No need. I vote, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Nay. And then the second motion would be just for, Brad, just for the Board of Ed number?
Board of Ed, you did already.
Okay,
The
so-
board usually just does the total at this point.
So then it would be for a total proposed fiscal year 18-19 town Board of Education budget of $75,252,524.
Second. Discussion? Vote, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those against signify nay.
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 Okay, so now are we on to our, to the capital? Right. Cynthia, you had mentioned wanting to talk about individual projects. You want to do that?
No, I don't think I did I?
You had mentioned that that was what you thought we needed to do.
Well, I voted no against the motion to increase, like, so I think we just move on. and
Okay.
We can discuss whatever.
So then, Brad, Bob, can we get your guys' help in filling up the capital non-recurring for the items that would go on the credit, otherwise would have gone on the credit card?
So if everybody still has from last night, the summary sheet that Mac gave out for his presentation. So the second section there, that says capital non-recurring balances. Obviously, the proposed number would go up to $1 million from the 225,000. So that'd make it $1,170,000. The Board of Selectmen had recommended possible CNR projects of $364,000. So working off their list, that would leave a balance for capital non-recurring between 2018 and the proposed for 2019 of $807,000.
807 even?
807,184.
Wow, sorry.
And in the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, they would assign 170,000 of those items to capital non-recurring fiscal year 18, and assign 192,816 to the capital non-recurring for fiscal year 19. So that addresses all the items on the capital non-recurring list as recommended by the Board of Selectmen, is that right?
Yes. I think it may be helpful, Mr. Chairman, to explain how the capital non-recurring works, because it works a little differently than the capital. So whatever's in the capital has to be decided months in advance, because that's what you're looking at now. So we'll just, the biggest ticket item in there, you can see, is the fire truck. So the board, the selectmen approved 600, or recommended 660,000. If that came in at 600,000, because by the time that its money's approved and that project is bid out, you don't, the $60,000 savings is money that the town doesn't have to borrow, but it can't be allocated to anything else without going through a town meeting and everything else.
Okay.
With capital non-recurring projects, usually those are brought to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen passes on to the Board of Finance. Usually those are ready to go projects. So you will get a recommendation, say the medium duty truck for $86,500. Maybe the pricing on it is really $84,000. So now that's $2,000 less that's allocated from that. I think it's an important distinction because really you're deciding what will you prioritize later, and what is the most important to go, to your point, of long term, as in what do you think on that total recommendation list might get bonded long term and last 20 years.
And how much of that, Brad, is determined by bond counsel, the bonding agents, as to what's a long-term asset that can bear a long-term debt instrument?
Bob would have that answer, right?
They, you know, over the last 7 or 8 years, we've always done the bands. So if we're gonna take anything out of the band category for future use when we're gonna bond them, it would be items like the trucks, the long-term type assets that have a useful life, maybe even some of the roads. They would put those into a separate category and basically what you would wind up doing is paying for that upfront in the note as opposed to over a 20-year period. So between bond counsel, myself, and Barry Bonavi, the financial advisor, we'd work on the different projects and figure out where they would fit in the bond.
Well, I guess I would ask my Board of Finance colleagues, do we feel like we know enough, or we've thought enough about which of the items on this list we want to recommend funding?
I
mean
say
in
fund
addition-
it all, but that's just me.
She's drunk with fatigue. She said, fund it all.
I mean, are you looking for items that you want to move to the
Are we
longer term?
discussing
Is that what we're
something
saying?
now? Are we discussing this?
I mean, are you saying, are we just gonna accept the selectmen's request, or do we wanna remove, do we wanna add items? I don't
Do
understand
we
the
want to
question.
talk about different items? Is
We're
that-
not on any motion, we're just discussing within the framework we've just talked about, which is to increase the capital non-recurring. How do we want to allocate the items on this list to the capital non-recurring?
Well,
Didn't the Board of Selectmen already do that?
I would say that the items that you're more certain on cost would make the most sense to put into that. I mean, if a fire truck has a variation of 50,000 from what they requested, it doesn't make sense to put that into capital non-reoccurring. You're better off bonding it and then taking the surplus or whatever you want to do, or whatever is not.
I think Brad is saying the opposite. Right? That
I was saying the opposite, just in the
I understand it.
life of it.
No, I understand in terms of useful life, but what I'm saying is, if we really don't know And I was at the presentation last night, and the
Yeah.
fire department was very honest, and they said, look,
Yeah.
but we can't give you an exact number where we're gonna come in. It's gonna be, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere between 560 and 660, or 600 and
Well, I think
600.
600.
600, so it's gonna be between 600 and 660. So, I mean, it's kind of defeating your purpose that you're talking about in terms of paying stuff off if you're placing a marker here, and then at the end of the day, and it's gonna take 10 months to get the truck or whatever, and it ends up coming in at 585, and,
Then the money would stay in that account to be used for something else.
right, but you're still building interest on items that are ready, and they're ready to go, and you have an exact cost on them. You're gonna build interest on the stuff you bond the second you take the money to bond it. The item like that, that's not gonna be here for 10 months,
Right?
you're not paying on anyway. So, you know what I mean? They could take the bond later. Why keep all that cash aside in that account?
Well, it would be earmarked for the.
I understand it's earmarked, but the whole point is to reduce interest. And the longer money sits on a loan, it
I
builds
understand
interest. The difference is when we have money sitting in an account like this, we don't build interest. It just stays flat money. So we're kind of trying to use conventional theories in what we bond in municipal governments to a business side now where we're saying we want to pay down interest and we want to accelerate it. Well, the best way to pay down interest, right, and not accrue interest is put the items that you know what they're going to cost and you could do immediately, and you're paying it right then and there rather than taking a bond on it and carrying that interest out. That's my layman's, how my mind work, and, you know, I have my own business
And
too,
most of
so
us
I
are.
deal, so, I'm not as educated as many of the people in this room, but it just would make financial sense to me. Shovel-ready projects, don't take bonds on them if that's what you want to do.
And not only shovel-ready, but my issue has always been the presentation in terms of what it's actually gonna cost. Because there's very little data that's presented. Some departments present a lot of data, but, you know, I never see really estimates or who there's been estimates given by, or, you know, what the future maintenance costs are, you know what I mean? I just can't take 660 and say, yeah, sure.
Can
I just can't.
Bob, do you understand my logic, or is it flawed? And you're a financial,
It's fine. So, the next bond, if we were gonna do a bond on the PD, would probably not happen until somewhere towards the end of this year.
Yeah.
By then, you would know on these projects, the $2 million, which ones would be ready. And if they were approved at a referendum, it doesn't mean that we borrow it in this particular year. If we're not ready for it, like we did one year with the roads, we had enough money left over from one year to the next. We waited until the following year to borrow that money, and we funded part of that year upfront on our own. And then at that point, when we borrowed the money, we just replaced it to the general fund. So you could do that with this too. You know, if the projects aren't ready, you just don't bond it. You wait until the next time around.
But then it
what
goes
would
in-
you, I'm sorry, Sam,
Sorry, go ahead.
what would your recommendation as our financial advisor, and Brad too, I mean, you guys are both charged with the financial well-being of the town in the sense that's your expertise. What would you recommend, if this even passes, what items would you recommend going into there? Like, if you looked at that list, what would you advise us as our financial advisor? I think this is what you should pay cash for right now, and this will bond.
And to me, that's the question for us to decide.
Right.
What do we put in capital non-recurring to pay cash for? And what do we say we're going to put on the credit card? And it doesn't have to be bond long-term initially. It can be what we've always done, which is
Short-term.
short-term. So I guess my question, and I apologize, I'm being inarticulate, but I think my question broken down, trying to make it clearer, is which one of these items do we think we should just pay cash for and put it into capital non-recurring? It may be no more than just sizing it. Sizing it to the 775 would add it to capital non-recurring.
I mean, when you look at it like the stage lighting at the middle school, I mean, if they're ready to do that, let's get it done. We have the money to do it, you know, no reason to wait for, you know, to bond it or ban it. I mean, even the dog pond, take care of that. If he's got all the specs already and he knows exactly what he's gonna do. The truck, I think you would wait until you get all the specs on them, you know, and that may take a few months too. You know, the big truck though, I mean, that 86.5, I think you can probably, that's like going to, not a showroom, but I mean, there is some specs on it, but it's easier than the fire truck to place an order.
But we would still have to put our capital, and this is where it becomes I don't want to say a slippery slope, but it kind of does, because we're still going to have to get the voters to approve a bond of 2.3 million. Because if the capital, most certainly you would, if the capital gets approved and the town budget goes down and you don't have the money in capital reoccurring, then what do you do?
Well, the first ask would be for the budget total that we've come up with today. And on that ballot will be a capital request, like there've been every year, but we would ask for $1 million instead of 2.1.
But
Well, yeah, it'll be 775 less than the 2 million one, exactly.
To Brian's point though, the capital usually passes by more than the budget.
And if the budget goes down and the capital, you say we're going to bond $1 million for these approved, then what do you do?
I think we say, okay, we now know what the town of Bethel wants us to do. The town of Bethel has said to us, we don't want to buy these things on a credit card. Okay, we took their direction.
No, I think you're missing my point.
No, I'm not missing your
Can I
point.
just please just get a clarification,
I can't.
because I don't feel like you're answering my question or understanding it. My point is if the capital items pass, and we say for $2.3 million worth of items, we're gonna bond $1.3 million, and the town budget fails at the same time, what is our plan to pay for the items that were approved that we have to rework a budget? My point is, you would have to structure the bond for the full amount, and if you don't need to take it and there's no penalty, then you don't take it. But you most certainly couldn't say we want to bond $1.3 million for $2.3 million worth of things, just assuming if capital passes that the town budget's going to pass, that you can't do that.
Right, and let me break it down to kind of parsing it, right? We would ask for capital, we would ask for bonds for some number, 2.1 million, less the 775 that we've put into capital non-recurring. We wouldn't go with 2.1. We would say to the town of Bethel, we're taking an intermediate step. We are going to pay for $1 million of these items with cash. That's in the budget. Let me just, right, that's in the budget. Then we're gonna say, by the way, we couldn't make the full step because we've got people who don't like 3%. They don't like the sound of it. Smart people will understand it once we explain it, but they're not gonna like the initial sound of it. And so what we then say is, we're going to look to bond capital projects of $1 million. If the capital plan, let me just finish.
I know, but I'm not dramatic,
Let me
but
just
to
finish
say
it.
smart people who understand it,
that's a little-
I understand it, I might just not agree with it. It doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent. It means that I don't agree with it, period. I understand it completely. And your comment that smart people will understand it, hence vote for it, is
No, I didn't say vote for it,
It's
no.
how it came off.
And I
That-
apologize. I did not, what I am saying is that I think people will get it. And I don't, they may not agree with it. And that's them telling us they don't agree with it. And that's tremendous information for us. That means they don't want us to buy these things. I'm just saying that we're, as a board, we're recommending that you buy it for cash, not on credit card, because of the current economic environment we're in.
Can I ask a question, please? That if the budget goes down, but the capital plan passes,
Yep.
and you want to, so that means that if we have to go back to the budget and reduce, that 700 and whatever thousand, is sacrosanct and cannot be touched.
No, that's not true. Then we
Well, it
may have
sounds
to
like
start.
that,
Yeah,
because-
well, I don't mean to suggest that. I don't
Okay.
think we mean to suggest that. We're saying those are the items we have to go back and.
You're
cut.
prepared to pull it from the fund balance, is what you're saying? Is what you would have to say, that if
Yes.
the town budget goes down and capital gets approved, we're prepared to pull it from the fund balance. There's no other way
That's
around it.
exactly-
Or you don't buy it.
Once the voters approve it, you can't say, I'm not gonna buy
You just
it.
said they didn't approve the operating budget.
The operating budget has nothing to do with the capital budget. It's totally different budgets.
No, because we've put it in capital non-recurring, which is in the
There are
operating.
two questions, though, so they could pass the
So,
capital and.
so
not
you're
pass
only
the-
gonna, so you're really, your questions, your capital items is gonna be to bond these equipment, right? We're gonna bond $1.3 million worth of equipment. If the budget goes down, the million that we've moved over don't get done.
Could be the town telling us they don't want it.
Or it could just be them saying that, you know, maybe we do want it, and that there's a way to see our way out of this, but we just don't agree with your philosophy. All I'm saying is there's a lot of different variables here.
Absolutely. And we'd have a discussion about why in these economic times, we think as financial advisors to the town, it's better to pay cash and pay off the credit card.
It is better, I know for myself personally, it's better paying cash. But when there's been a culture of not paying cash, it's an adjustment. So to me, I think this is, too much all at once.
No, that's fair. So that, and I think that was part of the driver for taking a intermediate step, doing it now so that people can digest it, and we'll talk about it at the public hearing.
I just think one of the keys to change, and when you ask humans to change, is to test it internally first, and not to drop a massive bomb on people and say, hey, this makes sense, let's do it, because change takes time and it takes baby steps, and you're in a corporation, and most corporations encourage innovative thinking, which I commend you for. They encourage, to test it internally, but they also encourage memory keepers so we don't repeat history. And history's shown us when we present a budget that's too big, it'll go down 4 or 5 times. Because once it goes down, it just becomes a feeding frenzy and it just feeds off itself. So this is my point. I'm not opposed to changing the way we do things. I'm just opposed to changing it all at once.
Well, why don't we talk about which items we want to buy, fund?
Well, I think you have to bond the fire truck, because if the budget goes down, they lose a piece of public safety equipment. So I think that should not be part of capital non-reoccurring. I think that's playing with fire right there. I think that should be off the table. That was pretty good, right, guys?
It was good for 10 o'clock at night.
Playing with fire, there you go, with the fire department.
You like that, Paul? That was for you. So I would say that one needs to be taken off the table and make sure that we keep that in capital.
Are we gonna vote on it? or-
No, I mean, we need to come up with a list and vote on the list, I'm assuming.
Right, if we take the 2,102,500, reduce that by 775,000. We've got to find a list of 1,327,500.
Can I make a suggestion? I would say that the fire truck and the high school HVAC total almost $1,010,000, again, with my rough math, and those are projects that need to be completed, and I don't think we risk that on a budget that could go down, and that we let the voters decide to bond those projects. I think, and then we just need to come up with another small amount. Maybe a plow truck, because the town highway needs to plow, and I'm not minimizing other departments' requests, but I mean, it's pretty important for fire, and it's pretty important that the kids at school maintain comfort. Does that make sense to a lot of people, or am I off base?
Well, we don't have to, that gives us a total of $1,010,000.
So we need 200,000 more?
We can pick the number we want to pick.
We could do 196 with the plow truck replacement, and we're right where we need to be. And we've protected 3 major items that are essential to town operation and function.
Bob, Brad, you guys have a view on that?
The only thing I would say, talking about Dibble, he said the sweeper is the more important item to them, especially since if he had to go out and outsource all town sweeping, it would hit the operating at a cost of like $100,000.
So swap it out.
Drop it.
Just swap that out and take the plow truck out, no big deal.
Yep.
So 230, 350, and 660, right? Those.
Yep.
And I'm not
not even adding it up.
1,240,000. Yeah, 240,000.
The only, I think the math though is not gonna work, right? We don't have enough capital non-recurring capacity.
Just move one other thing to capital.
What are we, off 87?
No, you're off $240,000.
So we're off how much do we need?
I've got, in my numbers, we need to move 1,327,500.
Okay, and where are we at now?
1,240,000.
87,000 delta?
So we can move one of the other highway trucks if we want.
There's an 86.5 truck.
You have one. You have, yeah, you have the medium-duty truck for 86.5, or you pare down the capital whatever and just bond the other big truck. I mean, you could just bond the other big truck and whatever. You got the money in there, pay down another short-term bond if it passes.
So 660 for the engine 6 replacement, 350 for the high school HVAC, 230, I think, where's the sander?
Yeah, the streets, it's right above
Sweeper.
the 350.
Yep, 230 for the street sweeper. And then we just want to pick something else.
How much do we have left?
I thought we were gonna do the big highway truck.
That's right. That's 124, so we'll do,
How much do we have left?
we can pick whatever, we just need to be over.
Okay.
One
But I
thing.
was thinking, the school, the stage lighting, or, well, we got the, what else?
I'm just looking at that number. Okay.
Yeah, this is just,
Bob, with the big highway truck, aren't we over?
I think so, I think that
If
works.
we threw that, if we throw both trucks in there, I mean, we're over, and those are, like I said, vital to town. You know, the stage lighting, I don't wanna sound crass, if that goes down, I mean, the sun will rise tomorrow, I mean, it's not like
Apparently
we're gonna be
that's a
stuck.
safety hazard according to.
Well, I'm sure we could come up with
people.
50,000 to fix it along the way. I mean, hopefully the fire truck's under and we have money left over somewhere.
You could probably add that to your non-recurring.
Yeah.
If you added the $196,000 truck, so then the capital request as a whole would be $1,436,000. It would also leave you a $100,000 cushion in capital non-recurring if you did all those projects, for either things coming in, if anything came in over, or, knock on wood, something blew up and needed money.
Yeah, or we have an emergency like we did at the YMCA or something like
Right.
that.
Okay.
So how do we move this forward?
Bottom line.
I'm lost.
I think what we're suggesting, right, is we would approve in capital for bonding $660,000 for the replacement of engine 6, $350,000 for the high school HVAC, $230,000 for the sweeper, $196,000 for the Class 8 truck. That gets to a total of $1,436,000.
Say that number again, one more.
$1,436,000. And Brad, is that what you have?
Yes. Traditionally, the board votes on each item separately.
Fair enough.
And then everything else that was not approved would fall, in theory, to capital non-recurring for the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to address when funds are available and requests are made.
Okay.
So if we do 2, so that leaves in the total column of those items adding to 2,102,500. That should leave about $666,500 to go into capital non-recurring.
Correct.
Okay.
Keep in mind, you're not approving those items can come out of capital non-recurring at this point. They would have to
putting
be
in there,
addressed at a later
yeah.
meeting.
Understood, but we'd put them on a list like we've done
Yeah.
historically.
Yep.
Okay.
And it allows the board to prioritize those projects.
So to get this approved, we have to list the items to be put onto a capital
Correct.
plan? All right. I'll make a motion that the engine for $660,000, the HVAC for $350,000, the sweeper for $230,000, and the Class A8 truck for $196,000 be approved for bonding in a capital plan.
I'll second.
Discussion.
We have a little bit left. Is there any other item in here we could sneak in? Stage lighting, that's small. The highway roof, 65,000, or the dog pound, 65,000.
You mean we're still short on where we need to be?
No, I think Wendy's just looking to fill it up completely.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Wow.
the stage lighting, they said that was an emergency. It's a safety issue, Larry?
Yeah, that's what I,
Oh.
well, the dog pound is a state issue, right, and then the lighting is a
I think it's-
safety issue.
It's just a matter of how much we pay in cash and how much we borrow, and we're kind of looking for a precision of $50,000 to $60,000. So, motion's on the table, it's seconded, there's been no discussion. Let's vote on this. Who's in favor of a capital plan of $1,436,000 for those 4 items we just discussed? If you agree, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against? Okay. So that's unanimous. And the rest of the items, we put on a list that will eventually go to capital non-recurring. Is that right? Is that, do you have any reservations with that approach?
No, normally, if we were building up a fund, this is what I'm just mulling through in my mind, if you were building up a fund, you'd be using this in subsequent years, so it made it kind of difficult to figure out from the capital plan to, you know, the monies that were put away to pay for those items in cash, you know. If you had a fund like we have the capital non-recurring at $395,000, you could say, okay, which items are we gonna pay for going forward? So that's the only thing that was in, you know.
That's why I suggested using the fund balance.
I would be not willing to use the fund balance, but not for now. But as we got closer to the end of this fiscal year, seeing what's available, I feel again, we need to reduce debt. I think we need to set up our sinking funds for future big giant purchases and keep some in the fund balance and spend it for things that are vital, not just vital for the town, but we want Bethel to continue to grow, be attractive. We're a community, and maybe with that, those funds, we can buy something nice, or fund something that has been requested.
Is there a motion on the floor? Are we motioning, making a motion?
No, I think
No,
we're
we've
done.
already
Oh.
voted.
I think we're done.
I think do we want?
For that, but I mean, what's next?
Yeah, I think just to touch on the deferred projects, so that folks in the audience know, we've gotten a lot of phone calls, sidebars regarding the turf field and the track. I mentioned to Dr. Carver that we're aware of a petition that is being pursued to seek a special meeting. We think that's a genius approach. So I think we're not going to address the turf field in our numbers before the public hearing, letting you all kind of do see what progress you have in the interim time on that special meeting. Responses.
How many signatures are required for the petition to then go to the next step?
5% of the electorate, I think, is what the
I thought it was-
charter.
Isn't it 200 to
200
get some?
signatures.
200 signatures.
To force a special meeting.
To force a special.
When in doubt, go to the,
I'm gonna post it on Facebook.
Petitioning for referendum? or
Yeah.
petition?
petition. Special meeting. There we go. Petition for special meeting, 6-6. At least 5% of the total electors of the town.
Right, that's what it says in the charter.
Yeah.
What's our total electorate?
I've done it a couple of times.
1, 2, 2, 5.
1225.
Says the registrar.
So what's that? 200, 260 votes you'd need?
225.
260 votes.
Changes every day.
She
Right?
knows them all personally.
So 5% of that.
Oh, 5% of that.
5% of the vote.
Of 12,000.
611, 612?
Yes.
611, if it's that number.
You guys.
No quarter person.
I know it is
12,225 plus or minus.
Oh, if you want to.
Okay, so you have to get 600 people to sign this. All right, shouldn't be that hard.
Yes.
How many
One
signatures
question.
does it say if you really want it put to ballot, though? Is it
It's
200 for
if
the
you want to
ballot?
put it on the ballot as a separate question.
I don't know, but I believe the petition is seeking a special town meeting for a vote.
But see, I don't think they need that. I think they can have a petition to add it as a question on the referendum ballot, and they need less signatures. I believe so, to what you can,
Yeah.
research it, but I think it's 200 signatures to get it on the ballot as a separate item. Where's Marty when you need him?
You, I think, if you wanted, you would have the option to recess this meeting instead of adjourn it.
Let's do that.
And then you could, I mean, you'd
Just
have to.
pick it up whenever.
Yeah, you could sleep on it, you guys could talk about it again tomorrow, if you wanted to do that.
What are we sleeping on? I just want to know when I get on my pillow.
There's a question about recessing this meeting.
No,
to-
but why
to
are we
reconvene.
recessing it? To think
Yeah.
about what?
I'm just saying, as a procedural point, I'm just pointing out to Bob that that's an option for this board to consider.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting you do it or not.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
just
just thought there was,
information.
I didn't know what we would be talking about.
I think that that's a good idea, actually, to recess.
And get together tomorrow?
Tomorrow night, is anybody, that was one of the nights that we were planning on doing it anyway.
If necessary.
But
If
could-
necessary.
Wait, hold on a second.
Dawn.
Is there an agenda posted for tomorrow?
Yeah, but if we recess it,
We're good.
I mean, I can just.
We can recess at any
recess it
point in
for
time.
any-
Yeah.
Can I just ask, so we've gone through every department and we've basically voted on every budget. What's the point of reconvening tomorrow?
I don't
I mean, I
know.
don't think any of your minds are gonna change, and I certainly know my minds aren't gonna change unless, someone says, hey, I want to reverse course. I'm not trying to be obtuse, obstinate, I just think, what's the point? I mean, we voted on everything.
And it seems like, who knows, I don't know what we're gonna talk about.
We
How
can
we're gonna
always,
do it.
if,
We can meet before the public hearing if we want for a half an hour. I don't know.
That seems right to me. What do people
On a
think? So
wagon.
we will adjourn this meeting.
There's a
and
motion.
Not meet tomorrow. And just wait to see what happens between now and March 20th for the public hearing. And encourage folks to come to the public hearing, ask us questions about this approach. So everyone understands the 3.1 is actually less than what the increase was last year. All right, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
It was a bold move, not bold, it was a responsible thing, and I salute you for for doing this, because it, while it's unintentional in Bethel, it's really the responsible way to do things. Trying to give you some clues.
I know, but I appreciate that, thank you.
And I think though that it should be